I just write it down?
I have not seen that part, but I have seen the one where he's like, yeah, I'm not racist, or I'm not trying to be. Yeah, I have some flare-ups in traffic, but otherwise I'm good.
Yes.
That's
Oh, look at that. We're
yeah.
live.
Whoa, whoa.
Yeah.
The
No,
invisible stream.
it's not invisible. I can see it on screen
Yeah,
rather. Hello, fine people in chat. Look at that, Hugh. We didn't even start the stream and we already had a super chat. How generous.
thank you very much for that. We're
Thank you,
really coming
Luke.
up in the world.
Luke says, haven't been able to watch you live very often, but I've been watching your stuff for about a year now, and over that time you've become my favorite film discussion show on YouTube. Wow. That is very kind. Thank you so much. We'll try to do that justice here today. Surpassing even EFAP? Oh boy. Well, thank you for saying that. Keep up the good work.
Has
Um,
chat been good? Well, you sure helped, because there you are. Look at that. You beautiful, beautiful man.
are they on screen yet? I
It's
don't see
not
them
the
on screen.
invisible chat. They're here.
Oh, I see it. I see it. Hold on, one of my instruments is echoing like crazy. Give me just a second. Doodle-doo. You keep talking though.
Oh boy. What is there to say? The Redskins are back, baby. The Redskins are back for the first time in my life, and I for one couldn't be happier. Pretty great. The Invisible. For a while they were the Invisible franchise, about 30 years or so. 33 to be exact. And here we are. Look at us now. Who'da thunk? Not me. Jamie playing with his instrument off mic as usual. When the chat wants to hear him play with his instrument.
No, see, I have like 5 or 6 guitars all on a nice little rack, so you can conveniently just pick them up whenever you want. You know, because if they just sit in the case, then you don't pick them up as often, right? So got them all laid out in this nice rack. But the problem with that is that I record audio in here, and that's bad for audio because every time I get loud, it always go woo. That's not good. Anyway,
uh,
yes, I heard you talking about how the Redskins, aka the Commanders, aka the Washington football team, whatever we're going with today, that they're good for once.
it for more yeah for more than once
I didn't
they
watch the game, but I watched the highlights at the end.
it's fucking crazy.
This
It's
morning, I should say.
it was
Yeah,
absolutely
it's
insane.
a wild game. It was like what, the 4 interceptions? It was a lot.
It four
Um,
interceptions and they scored 42 points in a quarter, which is the most of any team ever in a quarter. Like
wait, wait, they scored all in 1 quarter?
no, not
Or was
like
it one?
uh
Because how many did they? Oh, okay. I don't remember the exact
I
stat.
don't remember.
Anyway,
I saw that stat pop up on Instagram. Somebody might have been wrong. Who knows? I
anyway,
believe
it
everything I
was
read
great.
on the internet ever. Okay.
Good. As you should. It's good to be trusting. You don't want to be too cynical. It's good to just trust people and just assume they're telling the truth, especially on the internet. Yeah, for those who don't know, we are both from Maryland, so the possibility of an all Maryland Super Bowl is still in the cards, which is insane to
Wild.
say out loud.
Yeah,
Anyway,
I'm very excited for that because it's gonna happen. It's
Donald
going
Angry
to.
says, "Sorry, I'm late. It's okay. We have not started talking about anything important yet."
No,
As
no,
per the
not no.
usual arrangement. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're all having a wonderful Sunday. Yeah, today we're going to be talking about 2 movies for the price of one: The Invisible Man and also The Invisible Man. As I mentioned on Twitter, this is sort of something, this is simultaneously a continuation of this Universal movie monster arc it's been stagnant for a while, but we're picking it up again. And also, this is something we're doing in preparation for Lee Whannell's new reinterpretation, modernization, remake of a classic Universal monster movie, that being The Wolfman. He's decided to drop the because apparently it's cleaner. Wolfman, I think, is already out. I have not seen it yet, but we're going to be talking about that next week. Maybe we'll be joined by some guests. Who's to
Who's to
say?
say?
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's talk about The Invisible Man 1933 and The Invisible Man 2020. That's what we're talking
And
about
you know what?
today.
Because chat has been so good, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna let you decide which one we talk about first. Which one do you want to hear about
Right.
first? Uh,
Yes. Conventional wisdom would state that we start with the 1930s Invisible Man, but you know what? we're gonna give you the option to decide which one. Should we do a poll or should we just look at the chat and
Oh, I
decide?
gotta switch this over to the live chat.
Yeah, freaking better engage with your audience.
We-
Ah, there's a poll. I'm gonna do a poll.
Yeah, let's go.
33. Which do first? 1933 or 2020? Start poll. There you go. Which do first? You guys let us know which one we should talk about first. While we're letting those results roll in, I do want to talk about what is currently on screen. You see here, of course, the Invisible Man. He's shutting his ears. He doesn't want to hear it, and I thought that was appropriate because Lee Whannell. We're going to talk about him quite a bit today, and probably next week as well. Lee Whannell, for those who don't know, was one of the co-creators of Saw. He co-stars in Saw. He's the annoying guy on the other side of Carrie Elwes in Saw. He was instrumental in writing and creating the first 3 Saw movies, I believe. And then he went on to do Insidious and a couple other things. And then he started, I don't think he directed Insidious, but maybe I'm just misremembering. He did the 2020 Invisible Man remake modernization. He's also doing the Wolfman. Interesting thing about him is that he's a total baby when it comes to criticism.
I couldn't tell even a little bit from listening to people recite his writing.
So he's a big baby about it. There's a couple things I want to point to. The first one is what you see on screen. So this is him, Lee Whannell, replying on Twitter to a Scottish comedian named Limmy. I've seen little bits and bobs of his over the years. He can be pretty funny. I'm not an expert on his work, but he can be a pretty funny dude, Scottish comedian named Limmy. And he had this thread where he talked about all the complaints he had about the Invisible Man. Some of them quite reasonable.
As
and
we'll
Lee
get into,
Whannell,
I'm sure.
and Lee Whannell decides to jump in several months later, I should also note, to say, one of my followers just reminded me of the time this guy started critiquing Invisible Man, and I was wondering if any of my UK friends could review his work for me. So let's break that down. He was reminded of the time some guy, I mean, he's a comedian, he's an internet personality, and he's had shows and stuff, but well, sure, some guy was critiquing his Invisible Man several months ago, and he decided, basically apropos of nothing, to go to Twitter and be like, "Oh, anyone know his work? Want to critique him for me? Give him a taste of his own medicine." It's like, dude, what are you doing?
What is wrong with you?
Yes.
I didn't know he got into it like this.
Yeah, and then there was a follow-up tweet. They're hard to find now, the Limmy's original criticisms. I wanted to find them so I could go through them and see if we agreed with them or not. But all of these interactions have since been deleted by both sides, so they're hard to find. But Lee Whannell also followed up saying like, "Oh, I was in his comments saying like, hey, the filmmaker here." And then Limmy, according to Lee Whannell, was kind of sheepish and was like, "Oh, hey man, sorry, I didn't think you would see this." And he's like, "Of course, it's on the internet, like cocksucker," or something like that. And it's like, Jesus, dude, calm down. So let's. What would you say? Example number 1 of him being a total baby when it comes to criticism. Example number 2 comes from, I believe, last year. There was a conversation happening around end of the year lists among film critics, and a couple people were lamenting those who still do worst of the year lists, saying that it's mean and bad and that you shouldn't talk about your least favorite movies of the year. Lee Whannell chimed in to say, I second that. One time, Quentin Tarantino put one of my movies on his worst of the year list, and I still like some of his movies, but you'll never catch me putting down another filmmaker because I know how hard movies are to make.
Very Stuckman. Very Stuckman.
It is
of him.
very
Yes.
Stuckman, isn't it? So I looked into it at the time. Insidious was the movie that Quentin Tarantino put on one of his worst of the year lists, whatever year that came out. And and I just find it really funny. First of all, the implication that Tarantino doesn't know how hard it is to make movies. um, there's that. There's the like, oh, you'll never see me criticize another movie ever because I know how hard it is. It's just this very passive aggressive, like, don't tell me you don't like my movies. It's I worked really hard on them. You can't criticize them. It's mean. I would never do that. It's like, Jesus, dude, relax. I can't imagine being that thin-skinned. I really can't. Just
It's very difficult for me. Yeah, like
yeah, just like okay. And then I looked into it. I'm like, okay, maybe I could understand if he was upset because Quentin Tarantino very publicly was like, this movie was trash, and then the movie kind of suffered at the box office as a result. No, Insidious made money hand over fist at the box office. It was a big success, big, get teenage butts in seats horror movie success, right? So he has really nothing to complain about except that someone didn't like his movie, which, of course, a lot of people are not going to like your movie. Oh, but God forbid he said it publicly. I've never been a big fan of this like culture that exists in the entertainment industry where it's
yeah.
just like if you're in it, you're not allowed to share any negative opinions you have because no one is ever saying that you can't have them, but you just better shut up about them. And I find that really annoying. Because all it does is protect thin-skinned pussies like Lee Whannell. I mean, like really, that's all it does. Because if everyone could just have a thick skin and be like, ah, well, he didn't like my movie, and that's okay, and then just take criticisms, and then you move on with your life. If everyone could do that, then you wouldn't need this culture of like, oh, don't say you didn't like someone's movie publicly. Like obviously, there's a difference between like Quentin Tarantino. Quentin Tarantino didn't say Lee Whannell sucks and he should go die or something. He just said this movie sucked,
he didn't
and
he
he's kind of
didn't
right.
he didn't come out publicly and say anything like, hey, you know what, nobody should give Lee Whannell money to make another movie. I Quentin Tarantino do not believe that this guy deserves funding to make any more projects. He didn't say that. What he said
No,
was, this
this movie
movie
sucks,
wasn't very good. This
and he's
this thing
right.
you
By
made
the
is
way,
not very good. And and he's right. He is correct.
all right, I'm gonna end the poll there. Obvious winner is 1933, Invisible Man. So we're gonna start with that.
All right.
Yeah. So when we get back to the 2020 version, just if you're there in the chat, remember, don't say anything bad about the movie. We, of course, are not going to say anything bad about either of these movies because, of course, we're filmmakers now and we understand how hard it is to make movies.
We understand how
So,
difficult it is to do these to
yeah,
do this job.
yeah, this is a positive vibes only stream. Whatever you do, don't make fun of the 2020 Invisible Man. Lee Whannell will get very upset. He'll get big mad. All right.
All right. Well, let's begin.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
The
Invisible
1933's The Invisible Man. This was, I'm pretty sure, right? This is the last one of the Universal arc that you had not seen, right?
Of the main ones, I
Yeah,
suppose.
the big.
Yeah.
We want to say like the big four: Wolfman, Frankenstein, Dracula, Invisible Man. I'm not going to count the Mummy because the old Mummy kind of sucks. But you also haven't seen the 1999 Mummy, which we need to revisit at some
I have not
point.
seen any mummies ever in my life. I have not gone on
Jamie's
any
mummy left
expeditions.
when he was very young. It's a sore
Ugh,
subject.
yeah, let's not talk about it. Let's move on. Yeah, of the big four, if we're gonna call it that, this is the last I had yet to see. So,
And what did you think?
you know what? I thought it was all right. It's pretty stupid in some ways. It's not my favorite. The Wolfman is still my favorite of those big four, but it was good. I enjoyed it. It's very funny. I think the movie could have leaned more into the humor. I think it's trying to be funny and scary, and it only really succeeded in being funny for me. Um, there's
Oh yeah,
there's some
I would agree
there's
with that probably.
it's a little unsure of what it wants to be, I would say. But I enjoyed it. I think I really like the design of the Invisible Man. I really like the effects in terms of how they make him invisible. I think they're very creative, especially for the time. It deserves a lot of credit for how well directed it is. Shout out James Whale, who is the director of this movie. He also directed the original Frankenstein. He's very good at his job. These are both very well directed movies. I think the writing is maybe not as strong in this as some of the other ones. But I found it very enjoyable to watch. It is like Dracula and Frankenstein and not like The Wolfman, in that there isn't a score. There's an overture in the beginning, but there's no music for most of the rest of the movie until the very,
Like right
very
at the
end.
end, yeah.
Yeah, so it does make some sections of the movie a little dull. Um,
I would
just
say Claude Rains is absolutely killing it in this role.
oh yeah,
He is
yeah,
hamming it up and really
oh yeah,
kind of
he's great.
sells it, like sells the whole project for. I mean, it's well directed and it's well shot and the effects are amazing, but he just is unreal. He's like I was cackling to myself while I rewatched it this
Yeah,
morning.
like, well, he cackles quite a bit. So I was going to mention this at some point. Might as well mention it now. The Invisible Man in this movie is a lot like the Joker. he's he's a wacky guy causing chaos. He's an agent of chaos, and that stuff is kind of fun. I think it's a good movie. I wouldn't call it great, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. There's some really fun side characters with like goofy quirks and eccentricities that really help liven things up. There's some really fantastic camera work. Like I said, the visual effects to make him invisible for the time this movie came out are like absolutely stunning. There's a lot of fun to be had. I still think The Wolfman's a stronger movie though. That's the general take.
That's fair. But I
I
did
think I
enjoy
think
this one a
I
lot. This
think
one
The
really just
Wolfman
like
has stronger character work than this. I feel like the general gist of like how he becomes invisible, and I'm confused about exactly the effect of the chemicals on him, how that affects his personality, because sometimes he's like a total absolute monster who's just killing people indiscriminately, which I like. It's quite fun. But then later he's like, sorry, I think this had a bigger I can't remember. I wish I could remember exactly what he says. The very, very end when he's talking to his wife, and he kind of like, I think it had a bigger effect on me than I initially thought. It's like, yeah, you were just killing
you were
all sorts of
you were a little
people.
bit you went a little kooky there, bud.
He went a little kooky. I think maybe the character work could have been stronger to kind of establish who he was before and what effect this has on him, and what effect the invisibility, like, or how, to what extent the invisibility reflects something inside him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That part was just kind of very surface level and fine. But I did like a lot of the scenes of him fucking with people throughout the movie. They're very enjoyable, very fun. A lot of fun stuff. It gets pretty extreme. Like I just saw on screen the car crash that goes careening off the cliff and explodes. There's a
Yeah.
train crash
The
that
train
also.
wreck that he causes.
Oh my god,
But
wild!
like at the same time, he'll just kind of honk a policeman's nose.
Yeah,
Um,
it's,
you know.
it's it's so strange. It's a little inconsistent in terms of what his goals are and what he's really up to, but it is a lot of fun when it hits. It hits hard.
Yes.
And Nick the Greek, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, when are you going to discuss the brilliance of Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein? Well, that's on the list at some point. That's been recommended several times, and I think that would be a nice way to like sum all of these up, because my understanding is that like all of the big ones appear in that movie. So that's on the list. That might be the capstone to this arc. So we'll definitely get to that at some point.
It certainly sounds like a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to doing that. We have a lot
Yeah.
of arcs and projects on the
Yeah,
slate.
they're all moving at varying speeds, but they will all happen at some point. That's for sure.
Content
So,
for 100 years. Hugh and Jamie 100 years.
yeah, the next video that you can expect for the channel is a video about Nosferatu that I think will hopefully, in a succinct manner, summarize my major problems with the movie. And for people that don't want to watch an entire stream of us talking about it, I think it's going to be pretty good. I have no idea how it'll be received, but we'll find out. It'll be about like 20 minutes long, so that's in the pipe, coming soon. But yes, let's get back to The Invisible Man. So, basic premise, from what I understand, I didn't read the entire book. I started to read the book and gave up on it because I just thought it was all right.
I managed to make it all the way through. I like the movie better. I would say I had a lot. I managed to have more fun with the movie than with the book. But it's
But
it's not a
my
long
understanding
one.
is that it's relatively faithful. Is that
It's
true?
it's pretty close. It's a little. It's honestly it's a little bit more concise on the plot threads and like on who's doing what. And there's more of an explanation of exactly what has well, there's more of a the drug explanation, the fact that he's injected himself with a drug made of a flower that makes him go mad. That's a little something a little different. It's in the book it's more that his invisibility kind of sends him on a power hungry or like a power mad trip, and he's kind of like he's doing it for the sake of revolutionizing something, right? Revolutionizing man's perspective or position
Why
in
does
the
he?
world.
How does he?
Um,
Why does he do it in the first place in the book?
that
Like, how does
I
he
don't
discover
remember,
that?
man. Like,
Yeah, okay,
I don't remember why.
that's fine.
Just because I think he's like he wants to. It's a little like Frankenstein, right? Like he
Yeah,
wants to do it just because he can, to prove
there's
that
a
he
little
can.
bit of that in this movie. It's like married with a couple of other things that I don't know if they all quite fit together, but there's definitely an element of the like scientist who's just trying to do something great, trying to do something no one's ever done before, and there's that angle to it. And then I feel like what I could have used more of is like why he wants to be invisible, because we get a little bit of that. He gets a little bit of like, oh, here's all the things I can do by being invisible, and there's that like sort of power mad like sneakiness that
Yeah,
that you
well, like
get.
he throws out the idea of like I could sell this to the very like auction this off to the various governments of the world who could use my secret to swamp the world with invisible armies. But he tests it on himself without a firm way back. And in the book they establish a little more that it's because like he's doing this, but nobody really wants him to, so he has to try to figure it out on his own. He dives really deep into it on his own. And so
Mhm.
the idea of like, well, I just need more time, right? Like I if I had more time and unlimited resources and I didn't have to deal with people, and the realities of life, then I could figure this out and all of these, insects would, stop bothering me.
Yeah,
And it plays a little bit more into his hubris in that way. I think this one it does
there are
it gives
traces
a
of
little bit of
that.
that. Like yeah, there's
Yeah.
especially towards the beginning, it's there. It's just oh yeah, Daily Dose. That's correct. The professor who he works for, he is always stealing his ideas, so he decides to turn himself invisible in secret because he doesn't want the professor to get credit for the
Okay.
transformation.
Oh,
Um,
that's better. They should have kept that.
yeah, they it's
Well,
interesting what they do with
because he
the
feels
professor who works like in
because
this movie because he's kind of like a almost like a non-player for most of
a
it.
little
The
bit.
older professor, he doesn't have
Yeah.
much to do story
He's a
wise.
he's a pretty famous actor. He's in all sorts of stuff. He's in Shadow of a Doubt, which I quite like. He's also in It's a Wonderful Life.
Yeah,
And so I was like, "Hey, it's that guy." And then he didn't really have a whole lot to do. But the professor always stealing his work, that's good because that sort of taps into the like perhaps feeling invisible thing. Like you're not getting credit for your work and you're just kind of off to the
yeah,
side and no one's recognizing your work and stuff like that. So there's something there, right? In this, I'm not really sure what the connection is between who like why invisibility of the things he could be trying to revolutionize with science and everything. But anyway, let's go through the basic premise of this. Um, a man dressed in well, first of all, we established this nice little cozy inn where everyone's carrying on, having a grand old time. There's a lot of funny little gags that happen in this intro sequence that I like.
the
I like
guy who's pretending to play the player piano is
yeah.
like one of my
Oh,
favorite
it's funny
jokes.
because when we panned over to that guy, I was like, "Oh, that's really bad fake piano playing." And I thought it was just a movie thing because that happens a lot in movies where it's just like, "You aren't really playing that. I can tell." You know?
Yeah,
But it actually that was part of the joke, and I was like, "Ah, there you go. That's something." Um, so anyway, a mysterious man wrapped in all sorts of like medical bandages, except with goggles, the iconic Invisible Man look. He shows up, and everyone's like, "Oh my God, who the fuck is that?" And he's like, "I want a room. Give me a room." And they're like, "We don't have any rooms ready." He's like, "I want a room." And he's like, "Okay, fine." And then
get
we
one
we
ready then, bitch. Like why are you saying it that way?
yeah.
I'm offering to pay you, but spoiler alert, he's not.
Yes. And then so he gets his room. She's bringing stuff into him. He's like, "I want to be left alone. Don't come back in." And so she brings him his food, and then tells her to get the fuck out. She's like, "Oh my gosh, oh my goodness, I forgot the mustard," or one of the servants forgot the mustard, and so she gets the mustard. She goes back up to give it to him, and he's like midway of taking the bandages off his mouth, and he covers himself up, and he's like, "I told you to leave me alone." He's a very prickly sort of fella. And so something's weird about him that the people in the inn are very like
Off put
suspicious
by, yeah,
of him.
they don't like it.
Like,
And
yeah, is he on the run? What's going on?
she's our
What?
first like major side character too, and she's just she's so good as like the hen picking wife. Yeah, like
Yeah, there's
it's
some
a
really
really
funny
fun
little
trope.
visual gags too. So first of all, she has a very obnoxious voice in a funny way. So that's always fun. And then when the way she has to push up all those dividers to get from behind the bar to the stairway, like every time they do that, it's just like a funny little visual gag. I enjoy that. I enjoy how cumbersome it is. And then later, when things start going horribly wrong, the way she screams at everything,
Yeah.
I find very funny. It also goes some way of justifying how he manages to get around without making any noise. Something that uh,
We might
the
come
next
back to that
movie
point
where
later
yeah,
at some point. Oh, who knows?
maybe
Oh,
yes, she makes a lot of noise, and everyone in their panic makes a lot of noise, and actually goes some way, not all the way, but some way to explaining how he gets around without making any noise, as well as being invisible. Something another movie we talk about today maybe doesn't care about as much. Maybe we'll see. Um, so yes, and then he we get this little I think the first shot we get of him invisible, he takes the bandage off his mouth and we see like just his chin and neck are gone, which looks really cool, by
yeah.
the way. I'm very impressed with all the visual effects they do in this movie, because some of them happen while the camera's actually moving a little bit too. So it's not just the static frame where you get the plate behind it of nothing there and then you like cut it out essentially. Like they're a bit more complicated than that. So I find that pretty impressive for the time.
And like a
It's
lot of them
just
really
really
do
cool.
look good, right? Like
Yeah, they do.
it's something something that like we might be able some modern filmmakers might be able to learn from a little bit is like you're not going to do exactly the same thing, but like these simple little tricks that they do in this movie are very impressive, and
Yeah,
they
they're
still
impressive.
hold up. They look great.
It also makes the 2020 movie a lot less impressive
Yeah,
for doing basically the same tricks. You know what I mean?
yeah,
But when you watch a lot of the invisible sequences in that movie, it's less like, oh wow. It's like, yep, of course, yeah, he's invisible, yeah. There's no, I mean, there's a certain kind of competence that you got to give some credit for, but otherwise, it doesn't inspire awe the way this I'm sure did at the time.
absolutely.
Anywho, so we eventually learned he's been like after a while we discover that he's been there and he hasn't been paying his rent, right? And he's been holed up in that room. He doesn't want to see anyone, and eventually the wife is like, we got to get them the heck out of here." There's a funny scene where she goes to bring him something and he like doesn't want it, and so he smacks the tray out of her hand and she goes screaming down the stairs. Pretty great. And so she tells her husband, she's like, "We got to get this guy out of here. I don't like him here. He hasn't paid rent. He's really rude and he's scaring off other customers and stuff like that. You got to get him out of here." Like,
And he goes,
so
he's just like, oh, can't we just wait for him to cool off a little bit? He's just like, well, if you don't get him out of here, I'm gonna leave, and I mean it this time.
yeah, and I mean it this time. That's like some of the dialogue and some of the side characters are legitimately quite funny. And I think something about this premise is kind of inherently a little silly. And so leaning into the comedy is the strong choice for the Invisible Man, I would say.
Yeah,
Like I wish this was even more funny, but there's plenty of little funny things like, and I mean it this time. That's a funny line. I also like later when the police constable or whatever his title is, he comes into the room, he's like, "Oh, so what's all this then?"
yeah.
Like he's one of those
Every
guys.
time they tell him, so like when they come out to tell him that, like immediately in the aftermath of this scene, when the landlord goes up and tells him he's got to pack up, and they have a little scuffle, and he throws him down the stairs. Right, the whole crowd runs outside to get the police constable, and they go like, "Oh, this guy is up and he assaulted the Mister what's his name, and he pushed him down the stairs, and he's causing a ruckus." And he just goes, oh, and then follows them in there. And then he comes in and hears her. He's like, what's all this about then? And she's just, she tells him the story. He goes, oh, and then goes up the stairs. It's, they really do play up the jokes. They play up the comedy in this, and it's kind of funny because like later on when we get to the 2021, there's a lot that they try to play for like for tension and fear. They try to play, for the scares, and
Yeah.
it doesn't work. It's objectively hilarious when you get into some of those scenes.
Yeah. Yeah, so one of the things I quite like about this has been mentioned in chat just now. Like the people in the village basically act as if like a demon or some sort of otherworldly spirit is in the room, and like as you would
Yeah.
essentially. There's a guy who's like, especially when they come into the room, they try to haul him away, and he's like, "Oh, it's like I'm telling you, this is your last chance. Get out of here." And it's like, "What are you talking about? Like, you're coming with us right now." He's like, "Oh yeah." And he starts taking off all his clothes and like throwing them at them, and then he's just at one point he's just a shirt, and it's really funny to imagine him being naked in a lot of these scenes. It just adds a little extra zhuzh. And so he's got the he's just a shirt floating around like a ghost going woo, and they're like terrified and going like they're screaming and running down the stairs. It's really great.
Yeah, well,
It's
and
quite
it's funny
quite
because
funny.
like I mean they do that at first, and then like as the movie moves on, they kind of all sort of they come to accept the fact that it's like, well, I mean, like, yeah, he's still dangerous, but he is a guy, right? Like they come to
Yeah.
accept that, and that's sort of like the whole the whole arc of the movie for from the villager from the
Yeah,
villager's
the
perspective.
villagers at first they're terrified, and then they're like, "No, he's real. There's an invisible man." And then, of course, they tell the police, and the police are naturally like, "No, there isn't. What are you talking about?" They tell the news. There's a news bulletin that goes out at one point, and they're like, "There's a mass delusion happening in this town where everyone thinks that there's an invisible man." Like, so of course, naturally, everyone's like, "Yeah, fucking right, there is." Um, but then eventually, there's like a chief of police or someone who gets brought in to help solve the problem. Once he realizes that there's definitely an invisible man, I like the little strategies they enact to try and catch him. Like when they carry a net across the room just to make sure that the room is clear. That's fun stuff. I
Yeah,
like that.
I love the bit too where everybody starts calling in to like after they've confirmed that he's real, everybody starts calling in, offering up suggestions for what they can do to catch him. Like, why don't you just wait till it gets cold and then you can see his breath?
Yeah. There's a missed opportunity for a joke where there's a couple calls that the police tips about where they might have seen him and tips about how to catch him, and then one person who we know has had the invisible man in his house calls the police, and I thought there was going to be an opportunity for a joke of the police going, yeah, right, because they get so many false tips that they don't believe him, but they
Yeah.
they kind of missed that opportunity, but
Yeah.
that's all right.
Well, they do.
One other.
They give us a little taste of that at the beginning here when like he says the Invisible Man. He goes, "Put more water in it next time," implying that they're a little too drunk. Yeah. Make sure you water your whiskey down a little bit next time before
Yeah.
you call me.
Yeah. And so the other major plot thread, so while we're dealing with the villagers and the people who run this and dealing with this invisible man that at this point is still holed up inside that sitting room or whatever they called it, um, we cut to a woman who was asking her husband's boss, and like, is that the relationship there? That is like, because she's his wife, clearly, of the invisible man. She's like, I haven't seen my husband. He's gone missing. We have to do
I don't
something
know if they're
about it.
married. I think they're just like I think they're just
They aren't married?
no. Well, because Kemp moves in on her immediately because he's a little slime ball.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're probably right. Right, they're
Um.
not married yet.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
not
right.
married, but
So
they're
they're
engaged
dating.
or
Yeah.
some such. But yeah, he's engaged to his boss's daughter, or he's involved with his boss's daughter, and his coworker is moving in on his territory.
Yeah, like he was a secretive guy. I never really liked him. You can do better. Hey, like by the way, you should go out with me. And it's like, dude, you got to wait a little bit. You you pulled the trigger on that too quickly. You got to wait a little bit to make your move. He just went missing. So yeah, so the thread there obviously is that, that this is the people who know the guy who turns invisible, whose name is Jack Griffin, Dr. Griffin. And so we established that his coworker doesn't really like him, implies that he's secretive and mischievous, and they obviously don't know what happened to him. Eventually, he will come to visit them, to like make them do his bidding for him. But at this point, he's still at the inn until eventually the people try to get him out, and so he causes a ruckus, and it's a really fun scene. There's the like stripping off his clothes, and then he's just a shirt, and then they go to try and tackle him, and he kind of pretends to go out the window, but he doesn't go out the window, so he can sneak around him and get out the room, and he's doing fun stuff along the way with like knocking people's hats off and throwing glasses and like stuff he doesn't need to do at all, but is quite funny.
I'm gonna take
Like,
this bicycle. I am afraid I need this bicycle. Rides it about 5 feet up the road, knocks it over, and throws it at them instead.
yeah. Here's your bloody bicycle, and he throws it at him. Like he's a goofy, wacky guy. Now the explanation for this that we'll get is that so his experiment involved injecting a mixture of chemicals under his skin. One of the main chemicals being something derived from a flower in India that absorbs the pigment of everything it touches. There was apparently some study done where they injected a little bit into, was it a dog?
Yeah, it's a dog, and it turns it like a statue, but also drives it raving mad.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Like
Which is
it turns the dog white, but then it, causes it to go crazy. And so that's the very sort of thin explanation for why he starts off as ostensibly a normal scientist, if perhaps a little bit like mysterious because he wants to like prove himself and keep his discoveries a secret. He injects himself with this chemical to turn himself invisible, and it works, but oh no, he doesn't have a way of going back. That's what he's trying to devise, something that can undo the invisibility. But as a result of injecting himself with this invisibility potion, he starts to go stark raving mad, which takes very funny forms, in my opinion.
it's 30s crazy, like 30s
Yeah.
crazy of being like turning you from a respectable man of science into a goofy naked prankster, basically.
Like a goofy naked prankster who just wants to be left alone, who then goes full like, I'm gonna cause a train wreck and kill a bunch of people. I'm going to,
Well, he
he's
takes it
like,
a little too far.
yeah,
Which is a
he's just a
theme
goofy guy.
throughout
He's
these
just a
movies.
goofy guy. He's just a goofy guy. It's interesting because he goes like full maniacal murdering people, and then he's going to like he starts talking about remaking the entire world, and I'm like, what is your goal here exactly? Obviously, if the mind starts running wild with all the things you can do with invisibility, like rob a bank in broad daylight, stuff like that, that all makes a certain amount of sense to me. But when he's talking about like, I don't know what his sort of like revolutionary goals are, and I feel like some of the things he does while invisible amount to like goofing off and messing with people because it's fun and things you don't normally get to do in normal life. And then he has these really grand ideas about how he's going to reshape all of society. And I don't know if all those pieces fit together.
Well, of course you
But
wouldn't.
it's
He's mad.
interesting.
He's
Well, yeah.
he's crazy. He's taking crazy
It's
pills,
kind of
Jamie.
thin. It's kind of thin. He's gone crazy, and that takes many different forms that don't all really cohere together, but they're quite fun. I like him being a goofy prankster that's messing with people, and that's probably my favorite stuff in the movie.
Yeah.
Um,
I love the part where he's just a pair of pants, skipping down the road.
yeah. What's the song he's singing?
He's singing like, "Here we go, gathering nuts and May, nuts and May, nuts and May." Like,
Yeah, like
he's just fucking around, and it's like
Yeah. That
that's
stuff's
like
really funny.
the highlights of the movie for me.
Yeah, so he pushes his way out of the inn, and he's, messing with people, throwing their hats into the river, riding a bicycle for 5 feet, and then throwing it at people. And then he's on the loose, and he's on the lam, and people don't really know what to make of it. We hear a news report saying that everyone in this one town has gone mad, and they all have this delusion of an invisible man. How crazy. And so then we get to his coworker's estate, and he's listening to the radio, and he's not really sure what to make of that. And oh my goodness, the invisible man shows up, and he like forces his way in, and he's invisible at first, and he like sits down in the rocking chair in front of him, and he's like telling him like, he's basically holding him hostage in a way. He's like, "You're gonna do everything I ask you to, because I'm an invisible man." Ooh. And basically he needs someone to help him, right? Because he's trying to do a couple things. He's trying to figure out how to get back to undo the invisibility, but also he has these grand plans of like, reshaping the world and causing all sorts of chaos and robbing banks and becoming a great man and maybe even selling this technology to world governments and becoming rich and famous and all that sort of stuff. And so he's going to need non-invisible people to help him. A couple weird things we established that I don't know if they're necessary, but they're kind of funny. Um, we establish he's like, okay, here's the thing. I can never go out in public after eating because for the first hour after eating, you can see the food inside me, just like floating in the air. Hugh, what do you think of that?
That's directly out of the book, you know.
Yes.
They can also see him chewing the food and swallowing it. Um,
Hmm.
it's you know,
I think that's a little stupid.
yeah,
I
it's a
think
little silly.
it's a little stupid to establish that because like
There's not like it's
there,
not going to
there's
come back
always
at all, right? It's just
and there's like always some amount of like unless he's actually starving himself, there's always something inside. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like I feel like that's kind of betrays a lack of understanding about how that would actually work. You don't need to establish it at all. Some of the other
It's a
things
little
they
bit of
mentioned,
like it feels like lending credence to an idea, like oh, like this is this is a real concern that he might have in this situation, and it's just like
yeah,
yeah, but like we've already kind of got that with the breath in the air, like we've had those
yeah,
people calling in about like watch for footprints and
hmm,
do all like put tar on the road so you can follow his footsteps, all that kind of stuff. I don't know if we really need that specifically because we're already in a movie where a guy made himself invisible with a dye that removes color from fabric, right?
yeah. I
Like
think part of the problem is it's better off as magic than it is as science. Though obviously, the original story this comes from, it's a scientific thing, not a magical thing. But it might as well be magic. I think trying to treat it like, oh, this could be a real thing. That's why he needs to not eat the food because he'd be able to see the food. And it's like, well, the food would be in his system longer than that, and there's all sorts of other things in his system. Like, has it made all of those invisible? Like
you can
when
just
you
see
raise,
floating pockets of piss and
yeah,
shit
like
just like walking around.
yeah, yeah,
Aim for
like
that turd.
because you don't poop it out like an hour after you eat it. You know what I mean? So like, but by raising these questions, you just distracted me a little bit. Some of the other things they mention make more sense because they're more in line with the leaving footprints in snow and the breath and cold air. He establishes that if it's a really foggy day, that he will appear as like a cloud, like a bubble, I
Yeah.
should say, a bubble inside of the cloud. And I'm like, okay,
Yeah,
well,
I can only work in clear weather. He says at one point. He's like, yeah,
yeah.
and so you didn't watch the second one of these, with Vincent Price as a different Invisible Man. There's a
Two
really,
Invisible Man? Oh, it's like the Iron Man 2 thing, or it's like, or it's
uh,
like it's like it's like a lot of the MCU villains where it's like, oh, wait, are there two Invisible Men in the movie? Is that what you're saying, or is there only
no,
one?
no, no. There's only the one because he's
I
dead at
thought
the
you
end
were
of this one.
saying
They don't
that
bring him
like,
back.
yeah, I thought you were saying that there were two Invisible Men, and that just
No,
reminded me of
no, like
like the early MCU problem of just like, oh, there's an Invisible Man, and then the villain is, oh, another Invisible Man who's bad.
yeah. No, no. In this one, it's Vincent Price is like wrongfully accused of a crime, and he becomes invisible to try to, you know, he has to become
Okay,
invisible to try to solve the
that's
crime
something.
he's accused of before
Yeah.
he goes mad with power like this guy does. So there's a little bit of tension in there, but
Oh,
they have a
okay.
lot of really cool effects in the second one too. Not directed by James Whale, but there's one where he walks out in the rain and you can like see him. And there's also a part where like somebody blows smoke in his face by accident, and you see the cloud like kind of gather around him, and he has to duck
Yeah,
out of the way real quick because he's like, "Oh shit! No, my god, my one
that's
weakness."
fun.
So yeah, it's
By the way, Dr. Diddler, thank you very much for the super chat. Says, keep up at least some of the good work, lads. Will do. At least some of it. Um, yeah,
Yeah, 50-50.
some of these things they establish I quite like. I like how much we talk about like, well, he has to be naked all the time, and this is clearly taking place somewhere in England during the winter, and so there's snow, and he's like freezing his ass off. Like, you
It's,
know what I
I
mean?
mean, yeah, it's Wales. Nobody would notice a regular guy just running around naked, but
Well, I just like that there's at least some consideration for that stuff. But the idea of like, oh, I can't go out, I can't, my invisibility doesn't work like an hour after eating, or else you'd see the food inside me. It's like, I don't know about that one. Might be better off not saying that one.
yeah, probably.
Is it
I
called
mean,
Return to? Is it called Return
Return
of
to
Invisible Man?
Invisible Man 2.
Return to Invisible, yeah. Topaz is says second favorite of the monster movies behind Creature from the Creature from the Lagoon. I've not seen that one.
Oh,
Um,
I haven't seen that one either.
but I do like this movie. I don't like it as much as The Wolfman though. That's probably my favorite so far. Um, but yes.
It's
So
called The
now,
Invisible Man Returns.
uh,
Yeah,
anyway, so now that he's on the loose, he goes to find his coworker, and he's like demanding that he help him, essentially. Um, and so there's some tension there. There's some fun scenes, essentially, of that guy like wandering around his house and like not knowing whether he's followed him or not. He's like trying to call the police in secret, but he can't tell if he's being followed, of course, because he's invisible. That sort of stuff's fun. I like that. Eventually, he calls the police and he tells them to come visit him. At one point, his wife comes to visit, um, and I
girlfriend,
feel like,
not wife.
right? Sorry. His girlfriend comes
I
to visit
I
him.
really like the part where he threatens Kemp by being like, "Don't make me get naked here. Like, don't make me take my clothes off, Kemp."
Yeah, there's something
I'll
lost by
jerk you off in a movie theater and nobody will know. They'll put you on a registry.
Oh, it was the ghost. It was the ghost, the
A
ectoplasm.
spooky ghost.
Yeah. And so he's messing with this guy and sort of exerting power over him, and trying to get him to do his bidding for him. Meanwhile, there's a search out for him, and they're searching high and low. Um, what's the next like big point of escalation? I'm trying to remember
Well,
because eventually
they come to visit him, and he has a moment of reflection. But he talks about the drugs that he's taken, lighting up his brain, and how even the moon is afraid of me. I am
yeah,
death incarnate. Everybody shall be scared of how powerful my I can be
yeah.
when I'm naked.
He's go he's going crazy. And his
He's going a little
girlfriend, not
bonkers.
his wife, is a little like, you're scaring me a little. And then the police show up, right? They because he's told them where he is, and so they all surround the building.
Yeah. They all surround the building, and then this is where he like honks one policeman's nose, and like
Yeah, and they're like, he's here. He's here somewhere. Someone just honked my nose.
someone just honked my nose. Oh my! Someone just took me bloomin' cap.
Someone just flicked the tip of my penis.
The invisible
He's here.
Muggy, the Invisible Man is an annoying exhibitionist from how you guys are explaining it. I mean, yeah, kind of. That's sort of his superpower, basically.
Well, he's an exhibitionist without actually exhibiting himself.
Yeah, like he's not really like he just he he doesn't really want to be naked. He just kind of has to be.
Yeah,
Like,
that's
naked
just
out of
part
necessity in order to pull
Yeah.
off all his goofy little pranks. Like
Yeah.
derailing
Well-
a train and killing hundreds of people.
He just he kind of swings wildly, and not in a way that feels like a smooth, believable, like gradual acceleration of his escalation's the word I was looking for, of his mania and his madness. He kind of ping pongs back and forth between just being a goofy prankster that's like, these people are annoying me. They won't let me work. I'm going to show them. I'm going to throw their cap into the water, and I'm going to knock these drinks off the table. Stuff like that. Throw a bicycle at people, like honk their nose.
And
He
he tells Kemp like we're gonna start with a reign of terror.
Yeah.
We'll begin with a reign of terror.
Oh yeah, then he goes full like terrorist mode where he's like, "We're gonna kill a great man, and then a not great man, just to show that we don't discriminate between
Which
the
is so
two.
fucking funny. That is such a
It is
great
really
line. It's just
funny.
like, just to show we don't make, distinctions. And
Yeah, and that stuff's fun. I like that. If he, but but then in the next scene, instead of like, because he's just established that he's going to go like full terrorist, and there's going to be a reign of terror, and even the moon will fear me. Everyone will fear me and know how great I am. And then he's like honking the police officers' noses and stuff like that. He's just like, I,
he
I
gives him
don't
the
know, man.
classic, like, he pushes his hat off on the
Yeah,
ground, and when he bends down to pick it up, he kicks him in the ass. Like,
yeah,
your
yeah.
classic Three
Classic.
Stooges kind of
Yeah, so that's
slapstick
like
comedy.
he's going Joker mode, and I'm enjoying it. He's fucking with them. He's talking about his great plans to like his reign of terror and all that sort of stuff. He manages to get by the police that have surrounded the building. They've linked arms, but that really hasn't done the trick.
And he
And
steals
so
one of their pairs of pants. He steals somebody's pants. Like,
yeah,
he undresses him in the middle of the thing, starts pulling off his pants.
he's like, yeah. So
Rape Ghost.
he starts taking the one police officer's pants, and then he's chasing after someone saying the like we all go looking for nuts in May and all that sort of stuff. He puts the pants on, I assume, just because he's cold.
Yeah, yeah.
That's the main reason. So he's a pair of pants running down the lane, and then he's going on his rampage. Now it's time for the Joker rampage. So he finds he finds a railway station, and he like boinks and knocks out the guy who's like in charge of like manning the tracks, and then so he pulls the lever, which causes the train to completely derail and go careening off a cliff, and
The
presumably kill
screams in the
everyone there.
background of
Yes,
that, so like, oh,
yeah,
oh my god,
yeah.
it's so
So
fucking
the
crazy.
escalation is pretty abrupt there. He's derailing trains and presumably killing everyone on board and all that
Yeah,
sort
no,
of stuff.
they say like hundreds dead because of the
Right,
train.
exactly. Yes.
He walks into a bank and pulls a cash drawer, like a single cash drawer out of the thing, just walks outside and dumps it on the ground and goes, money, 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 money.
It's like that sounds great. That sounds really good.
uh,
Uh,
yeah,
um,
he's the YouTube prankster of the 1930s. He's out here getting a rise out of everybody.
just for the fun of the game, like
Yeah,
obviously he doesn't take all the money he can. He takes one cash drawer and then just walks out going money, 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 ha 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 ha, ha. And then like he has a really funny laugh that he does. It's kind of like his Joker laugh. Um, that stuff's great. Him being like a chaotic person essentially that just wants to cause, because
he's just trying to cause as much chaos as possible because he's really enjoying like everybody
yeah.
being afraid of an invisible man.
Yes, exactly. Eventually, it's time, like, we got to do something to catch this guy. We don't know where he is, but, um, I like their scheming and thinking about how they're going to catch him. I like the scene where, like, he could be in this room with us right now. So they take a net, and a whole bunch of people walk from one end of the room to the other just to go, all right, this room's clear. That stuff's really fun. And then their plan involves, well, it's snow's coming, and they're like, "This is our chance. We have to go now." Um, I can't remember how they know where he is or where to start
Well,
looking
so
for him.
he gets into it. Well, okay, he first because he kills Kemp. Right, like he asks, like Kemp disguises himself as a policeman and tries to run away, and
Yeah.
the Invisible
Oh,
Man
right.
has been with him the whole time. Right, they've put so the police have put dirt, like loose earth, on top of the wall, and what they're gonna do is when they see the dirt, because the wall around Kemp's property, and what they plan to do is when they see the dirt fall down, they're gonna spray him with some ink that they hooked up to a fire hose, and then they'll be able to see him and they'll get him, right. And what ends up happening is a kitten gets up there and knocks down some dirt. So a policeman sprays it and it runs away. But then the policeman is convinced that the Invisible Man is in the house somewhere on the ground. So they all they focus their search there.
They break
Meanwhile, Kemp,
formation. Yeah.
yeah, they break formation. Meanwhile, Kemp gets in a car disguised as a policeman and tries to run away, but the Invisible Man is in the like has just been waiting in the car the whole time,
Yeah.
waiting for Kemp because he knows he's a snivelly little bitch and he's gonna run away.
Yeah.
And so like that kind of stuff I really like. I like
Yeah.
the parts where they psych themselves out trying to outsmart him when it's like he's just doing like these really like completely opposite things,
Mhm.
that he said he
Yeah.
would, or that they think he might. So he ends up getting Kemp, tied up, puts him in the car, turns the handbrake off, pushes the car over the cliff, and it fucking explodes
Oh yeah.
immediately. So Kemp is dead,
It's fun.
and
Yeah. Kemp's dead.
it's a lot of fun. And then they all now the whole reason that they've put set this trap for him at Kemp's house is because he promised to come back and kill Kemp at exactly 10 p.m. that night. That's the reason that they know where he's going to be generally, right?
Yeah.
And now if I were him and were, trying to cause as much chaos as possible, I would tell them that that's where I was going to be, and then I would go fuck around with something else, right? Like
Yeah.
all the police in the county are at Kemp's house right now. I can do anything I want. Like,
Yeah.
we're going to go.
Whatever his sneaky little heart desires. But
Yeah.
no, he's like, I'm a man of my word. And it's like, okay.
Okay, sure. Yeah, that's fine. It
Yeah.
works, but yeah. And he gets what he wants. He kills Kemp. And then
Mhm.
eventually he sneaks off to a barn because it's fucking freezing and his cock is all shriveled up and
Yeah.
he's got to
Luckily,
sleep it
no one
off.
can see it because
Yeah.
there's some major shrinkage going on.
Yeah, I can only imagine walking around outside in a snowstorm in England. But he gets into a barn, falls asleep in the hay, and he's getting sick because he's been running around naked this whole time. And
Yeah.
the farmer comes in and hears him snoring and then runs down to the police to tell them there's an invisible man in my barn. And they all
Mhm.
come back.
You?
They all come back and he's still there. He's still just like sleeping it off in the hay. And they decide to burn the farmer's barn down and force him out of the barn into the snow,
Or they can
and
see his
where they can see his
footprints.
footprints. Now I also found it a little silly, right? That the farmer comes to tell them like, "Hey, I found him. He's asleep in my barn. Let's go get him right now." And they
Mhm.
come up and they're like, "Okay, great, £1,000 reward for you. Yeah, we'll give you that back. We're gonna burn it down."
Instead of ambushing him while he's asleep.
We could just take him. Well, now they don't want to get in there because, like, oh, he might be able to get away if we
Sure.
go in and we can't see him. Although you could just send like one or two people in and then have the rest of them out there watching for
Yeah.
footprints if he decides to try to sneak out the front door or anything like that. But
Yeah.
they decide to burn the farmer's barn down, and he has like I kind of expected a little bit of like comedic pushback for that,
Something,
like just be
yeah.
like, well, £1,000 reward. You could just build me a new barn, but yeah, it is.
So that's the plan. They
That's the
light it on
plan.
fire.
They
He
land
comes
on
outside.
smoking him out. He comes outside. They see his footprints, and they shoot him a couple times, and they get him. They got him.
Mhm. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. And so the movie ends basically with him on his deathbed, and his girlfriend, not his wife, is there, and he says, "Susie," it's not her name, but whatever. "Susie, I may have gone too far in a few
I may have
places."
gone too far in a couple of places.
And then he dies.
Man really shouldn't be invisible, and then he dies. Like of course, you would say that. The reason that he's
says,
dying
I
is
think-
because the bullet went through both of his lungs, and they're like, "Well, we can't fix this. We can't. What do you want us to do?"
I think the exact line is something closer to like, "I was messing with things man shouldn't mess with," and it's like, yeah,
Maybe.
there's that. There's a little more than that, I would say. But then the interesting thing that I found neat was that like once he dies, he turns visible again. So like, oh, that's kind of neat. You finally get to see what he looks like.
Yeah.
That's a neat way to end it, I would say. And that's the story in a nutshell. Muggy earlier asked, "I might need to watch this movie. This sounds funny." Other than the fact that we spoiled it for you, I do recommend watching this movie. It is quite fun.
Yeah.
It's maybe not as consistently funny as you'd like it to be in a perfect world, but it's quite fun. It's quite enjoyable.
It's a
There's some really
breezy 70 minutes. Like you're gonna
yeah
have a good time.
yes. It's an easy recommend.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed it. A lot of fun to be had imagining like a naked invisible Joker running around. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's well shot. It's well directed. Claude
Mhm.
Rains is killing it. Fun time. Really like it.
Maybe a little thin,
Yeah.
uh, a little shallow in terms of like depth of character and stuff like that. But it is a perfectly serviceable, fine, fun movie with a lot to recommend it. So an easy, an easy thumbs up for me.
Somebody
Especially,
should remake it.
I don't know about that. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about it obviously because I watched the remake as well, and I was thinking. So the question is, if you were to remake The Invisible Man, ignoring the next movie we're about to talk about, like what would you keep and what would you dispense with?
Well, I first off, I would dispense with almost everything that has come, like afterward, all the baggage that's come with it afterward
The
about the
sequels
Invisible
and
Man.
such?
Well, the reimaginings, I guess. Alan Moore had a lot to do with that. I think in his League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, where the Invisible Man
Oh,
is
right.
kind of a perv and a rapist. Like
Well, it's certainly one direction you could take it.
yeah, well, Hollow Man did that fine. I think that's sort of what we Kevin Bacon plays an invisible rapist, and it's a schlocky, schlock filled fun fest. I don't think we really need to bring that into the main franchise. We can leave that with Hollow Man.
Yeah.
I would keep a lot of the wacky goofiness. I might turn it up a little bit to 11. I think I would have him doing some real I can imagine a lot of really funny shit that somebody who is invisible might
Hmm.
do in order to spite people that he believes wronged him when he was visible. Like,
Yes.
for example, I know I made this joke, but for example, you could whip your colleague's cock out in front of an elementary school and get him put on a registry. That could be a fun thing to, a fun thing to do if you have a mind to.
And the
Um,
wacky, silly sort of stuff like that.
yeah,
Yeah.
wacky, silly things that are very petty. I think I would lean hard into the pettiness of it. I don't think I'm going to
Petty.
go full world domination. I
No,
think,
I would, but there's the aspect of the Joker that I would definitely like to see more of in this. I think one of the main things that if I were to, I don't really feel compelled to remake it. I think it's fine the way it is. But if you were to, I would probably make it magic instead of science. I know it's not a huge choice. I mean, sorry, it's not a huge change, all things considered. But I think this is the kind of thing that works better as like a sort of magic spell than it does as a scientific thing. It's just easier to swallow. You don't need to talk about, oh, it's this chemical that you found in India and it removes color and that's how we can see through this person. It's like, I don't I don't know about that. I feel like magic is a simpler explanation.
yeah, yeah, I like, it's your 1800s science magic stuff.
Yeah, I just think it'd be. I think I don't know. I think that would be a slightly stronger choice personally. Otherwise, you could keep a lot of the same arc of the story. About
Yeah,
this guy who's like who does it for one reason, but then he slowly discovers all the horrible, terrible things he can do now that he couldn't do before, and all the people that wronged him in the past that he can get back at, and all the you know what I mean, all
yeah.
the chaos he can cause.
I'd
Leaning
basically make it
into
13 Reasons Why, but invisible instead of suicide, is what I'm getting at here.
yeah, or something where he can essentially, you can lean into the sort of resentment he feels towards people, you know, at the beginning, and then like whatever's wrong with him at the beginning, because I think it's kind of weak to basically establish that he was a perfectly normal guy until this happened. You know what
Well,
I
I
mean?
mean, he would, yeah, I think the idea is that he was like a little bit on the wacky side. He was interested in all that crazy kooky shit.
I
But
guess
yeah,
so. We didn't. It just didn't get a lot of flesh in this
yeah,
movie.
it's I think it's there more so than saying that like he was just a normal guy might imply. But I think that you're right that it does need it would have benefited from having a little bit more of that built into
Yeah.
it, you know?
Oh, and for the version where this is essentially magic, I think making it a period piece in this sort of time period still works. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Like
Um,
Trevion Washington says to make it a boner comedy like American Pie, and you know what, I think that would be really funny, actually.
yeah. It's
Did you
like,
fuck this pie? No, no, it was the Invisible Man.
yeah. So what did we learn from The Invisible Man 1933? That he was just a goofy guy. He just wanted to have some fun, and everyone was being a real downer about it,
But
a real
all
negative
these
Nancy.
simpletons, just couldn't
They
leave
just
him
didn't
alone.
understand him, you know? He just wanted to show everyone how you can have a good time as an invisible guy. And they said, ugh, we gotta kill this guy. I mean, it's so rude. He's just a wacky guy, he's trying to express himself, have a little fun. Maybe he went a little too far in a few places, but, he's just a dude being a dude, He's just having a good time. Speaking of, I suppose now that's a good enough segue to talk about The Invisible Man 2020, which is about a guy who's just, goofing
He's
off.
just being a boys. Guys, just boys, just being boys.
Yeah, he's
That's
just
what this
having a
movie.
good time, gaslighting his girlfriend and, playing pranks on her,
Well, aren't you?
killing her sister in front of her, little fun stuff like
He takes
that.
it a little too far. He
Yeah,
turns
maybe
himself
he,
invisible to fuck with her. He takes it a little too far in a couple places.
yeah,
He
I
kills her
mean,
sister. He fucking slits her
yeah,
sister's throat in a restaurant.
yeah, but it was kind of funny the way it happened.
It
Like
is kind of funny
objectively,
actually.
you have to
Objectively
admit that
speaking,
it was
most of this
pretty
movie is
funny.
really funny.
Anyway, so yeah, The Invisible Man 2020. Hugh, what are your general thoughts
Holy
on the
shit.
film?
Oh my god. It's not good. This is the Shane Gillis bit that people in the chat have already referenced. Is that this is like a white woman's fantasy? And when I sat down to rewatch it this morning, I could not agree more. This is one of the craziest. God, one of the craziest like female revenge stories. I think
Yeah,
that
wish
has
fulfillment sort
has
of
been made
thing.
in
Yeah.
recent memory probably. it's it kind of uh,
It's
it's
not good.
baffling to me that it has as
Yeah.
high of a rating on like Rotten Tomatoes. I
Oh
guess
yeah.
not that crazy, but it's wild that it is as well respected or well regarded as it is to me,
I agree with you. One of the things I would say about this movie, even though it's only 4 or 5 years old now, it's a product of its time
No,
in
that's for sure.
every conceivable way. And it's a product of its timeness is the fact that this comes from a time when we were all supposed to think that this stuff was good. Um, we weren't allowed to say that this is actually really, really like weird, cringe, like wish fulfillment fantasy about this. Oh God, there's so much to talk about. But in a nutshell, this movie sucks. That's my opinion. This movie is incredibly well reviewed, and it does not deserve it. This movie's really stupid. There's a lot of things wrong with it. There's the fact that Elizabeth Moss is horribly, horribly miscast in this film. Um, there's there's like the logic trying to hold this whole movie together is just like paper thin. It's really bad. It falls apart if you think about it for like more than a second. And then it is the sort like the wish fulfillment fantasy that has been commented on several times already is like the inverse of the 50 Shades of Grey fantasy, where it's
Yeah.
like this billionaire is obsessed with me, even though I'm the most like average
Average
looking
looking person.
person.
I was
Yeah,
just a suburban girl who came into your life at a party one night.
and now
Why are you such a
you fake
stalker trillionaire?
you faked your own death for me. Oh my God! Like it's just so it's like 50 Shades of Grey, but like trauma porn instead of like borderline rape fantasy porn. It's It's like, oh, he's so controlling. Everything about it. We'll talk about some of the details, but it's just so it's so hollow. Like there is no good work done to explain why he's so obsessed with her and why her. Like the movie has the self-awareness to raise the question at one point, but it just doesn't have an answer. He everything he does is just because he's obsessed with her and wants to gaslight her and make her suffer. And it's like, why? I don't know, because men just
They
wanna
give you
they
they
just
give you an
wanna
explanation at one point, and
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it is because you're the only one who he wants but can't have.
Ugh. Ugh.
The classic entitled white male kind of villain
It's
plot.
just so it's like, oh, because he wants to abuse women because that's what men do. It's like, but you have not characterized this person in a way that I believe any of this. Of course, there are abusive, controlling men out there, but they don't behave like this. You know what I mean? It's like you need to. That's not enough. Everything about it is so shallow, so surface level, and it's like, okay, he took. This is a very, very different movie than the 1933 Invisible Man. It bears almost nothing in common with it, except that there's a guy who's invisible. It takes place in modern times, and
And
basically,
that he's got a streak of the prankster in him is
yeah,
basically where the comparisons end.
yeah, and like all he does the whole movie is just try to ruin her life in ways that in some ways that are quite funny, in some ways that run like explicitly counter to what his own goals are. It's just a load of garbage. This movie sucks. It's an ugly movie for one. I think visually this movie is just ugh, that's very much the whole product of its time-ness. This is very
Product
2020.
of its time,
What
which is still happening in modern horror.
I mean, yeah, but I feel like maybe we're moving away from this a little bit, slowly but surely. This just feels like like
He
dead.
just made another one though.
I know he did, but we'll see how it's received. I know, like we're not out of the woods yet. I agree, but this is very much feels emblematic of like the peak of that wave, if you will.
Yeah.
So this is a Blumhouse movie. So basically, the idea of there being an invisible person is just a vehicle for generic blood Blumhouse horror movie stuff. You know, like darkly lit rooms and oh, is something gonna jump out at us? Whoa. There's ever so slightly more to it than that. I've been pretty harsh on the movie so far, but I do want to acknowledge one thing that I like about it. One thing that I like about it is that there's some pretty neat camera work where like the camera sort of pans over or hangs on like wide open rooms with a lot of negative space and stuff like that. And it sort of lets your mind imagine, oh, is there someone there? Is there some, you know, that sort of stuff. Like you're looking at a scene and something's going to move, but you don't know exactly what it's going to be or when. You know, there's a natural sort of suspense that happens in those kind of sequences that I think is perfectly fine. In a better movie, I would like it more, but I think the writing in this movie
Yeah.
is just too awful.
They're all incredibly stupid. I mean, like
Yeah,
the characters are all incredibly dumb and just like kind of mean to each other in a lot of ways, except the one big relationship that I know Shane Gillis harped on a lot between the white woman and the jacked hot black friend. Um, but like they're all incredibly stupid, and you don't really get a good sense of why any of this is happening. And
no,
like the movie really wants you to take her side here. Obviously, it's like very much coded
obviously.
towards that. I mean, like there's no way around it. But she is real like she's really really dumb to the point that like even like she has a particular goal we'll get to around the midpoint of the movie. She has a particular goal. She is convinced that an invisible man is haunting her, that he's made himself invisible with a special GoPro suit basically, and she makes decisions that are entirely contrary to her ability to solve this problem, even
Yeah.
though like any normal person should pick up exactly on what is like what you could do. We'll get into it. Let's get into it. Let's jump into it.
I'm gonna address some comments because there's some good ones in the chat before we jump into it. So yes, the 2020 Invisible Man was such a goofster. He really is. Like if you take if you take his perspective, what he's doing is very funny and very clever.
And
And
also very petty, and like
yeah,
like it keeps that kind of like his idea of like how to fuck with her is to turn the gas up on the stove a little too high so that the food gets set on fire and everybody thinks
yeah,
she's a bad cook and she almost burned the house down.
yeah,
Or she
it's,
like he pulls the sheets off of her in the middle of
yeah,
the night and then like
with the
just
skull.
stands on them so that she'll freak out and make herself look crazy, right? Like
Yeah,
it's nuts. Like, he
it's
pulls all of
really
her work
funny.
out of her architectural portfolio so that when
She's
she
going in
goes to
for an
her
interview. Yeah,
interview, she'll open up the book and there will be nothing there, and she'll look like a fucking ass clown who didn't check before she got
yeah.
in the car whether or not she had everything. Like
He's a goofster. He's a
it's
real goofster, and it's kind of funny how comically like he's like a creative genius in his ability to make her seem crazy until he just suddenly isn't at the end. He just turns retarded because the plot needs him to. So that's always fun. Classic horror movie stuff. But it is kind of fun to root for him in this movie, I'm not going to lie. Because it's so hard to take it seriously. It's quite fun to just be like, ah, look at him go. He's like really good at this.
I really wish they had leaned into it a little bit more. Like
Yeah.
all three of them are sitting there watching a movie in the cop's house, and he rips a huge fart, and then like everybody blames it on her. You know, like I
Yeah.
really wish that more of that had
Oh,
happened
me
because
too.
that would have made this like way more worth it.
Daily
It's too okay.
doses.
It's also an hour longer than the original one. It is excruciatingly
It's
paced.
too long.
It's
It's
way
too
too
long.
long.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, hold on. We'll get more into that in a minute. I want to get through some of these comments. Someone said there's something really weird about typecasting yourself playing abused women. Yeah, I would say so. Elizabeth Moss seems to be doing a lot of that these days.
Yeah,
Um,
it's weird because I really like her in Mad Men. I like the way
yeah,
like
she's good in Mad Men.
she's really
She's
good
good.
in Mad Men.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like,
This
I,
feels very much in line with The Handmaid's Tale.
yeah,
It's the same. It's the same kind of thing, and it's just as surface level and stupid, and so like you're trying to make social commentary and stuff, but it's just so dumb that I'm rooting for the villain because it's more fun that way.
yeah,
Like,
it is. Topaz Dude is saying, speaking of the Hollow Man, this just feels like a generic rip of that. Yeah, it does. That's one of the things that I kind of noticed. This is more of a Hollow Man reboot, really, than an Invisible Man reboot. So,
yes, for
like,
sure.
yeah, I
Um,
and I who to Evan, who says that he's sure Elizabeth Moss has great range. She does. I mean, go watch this. Like, I would recommend Mad Men all day, every day. She's great in
mm,
that show.
yeah,
And she's not playing an abused an abuse victim who
feminist underdog.
yeah, like
Yeah,
she's not playing that kind of character. She's playing a woman in the 50s and 60s who's trying to figure herself out, right? Like she wants all these different things and she has to figure out how she's going to balance
ambitious.
that, like with the so like and the way that like the way that she has to work a little harder than the men in the office at the time, right? Like it's
Mhm.
she's treated
Well, she's also
differently, and
like
she has to
she's
try to
also
figure it out.
and she's treated differently from the women because she's far more ambitious and
Yes,
she has a much more masculine temperament than a lot of the women around her. So like,
yeah, she plays a really good character caught in the middle in that,
yes,
and
exactly.
she does it well. And then
Yeah,
she's since that show ended, she's been really in on the Handmaid's Tale kind of like women believe all women, Me Too movement kind of stuff, and it's just it's tanking her appeal
yeah.
in my view, because like I really liked her. I was like, I can't wait to see what she's gonna do next after Mad Men ended, and it's kind of been a wet fart of a career moving forward.
Is she a Scientologist?
Is
I've
she?
heard that she is. I've heard that she is, but like I want to look it up before I just throw
Oh,
that
that would
out
be
there.
wild.
Let me. You keep talking. I'm gonna look this up. I just want.
Oh, she
Yep.
was raised as a Scientologist.
Okay. She was raised as one, so I guess that implies she is not currently one. Nope. She practices Scientology, so she's a Scientologist.
That's that is. rich that she would do these kinds of movies. And
Yeah. Hmm.
that kind of wild.
Yeah. If you know anything about L. Ron Hubbard, it's kind of funny that you would make this movie. Just throw
Just
that
say,
out there.
yeah, just saying.
Anyway,
Hmm.
but here's an interesting thing, a point of comparison about Mad Men as well, because she's well cast in Mad Men for that character, and she's horribly cast for this. Um, Here's the thing. I don't find it believable, and a lot of people have this problem that that the billionaire tech CEO guy who is more attractive than her is so obsessed with her specifically that he will like fake his own death just to gaslight her for like several months. You know what I mean? All the stuff he does
Blow
in
his
TV.
entire life up.
Yes,
Like completely
essentially.
ruin any like there's no way he comes back from this. Like
No.
like
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah.
get
So
into this, but there are photos of him lying in a pool of blood that are used as evidence that he like there are news stories all over the place. Like that's how they find out, right? Like there's no way he comes back from this in a believable way.
yeah.
And he's done
So
this all for her.
for her. For her, yes. And I don't believe it. I'm sorry. Like Elizabeth Moss in this movie especially does not look like the wife of this billionaire guy. I just don't believe it. You know what I mean? She's well cast for Mad Men because her not being as attractive as a lot of the women in Mad Men, and Mad Men has a lot of beautiful women in that show.
Yeah.
Her not being as attractive as them is a big part of the character because she has to like prove herself in other ways. She's ambitious, but she doesn't have that to lean on the way some other women do. And so, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Well, that's one
well
of the big
suited for the
things that
character.
drives a wedge between her and Joan early in the series is that
Yes.
Joan is trying to like give her tips for how to succeed as like the office sex pot basically. And
Yes,
she
exactly.
kind of goes along with it at first and then realizes like this isn't really something that I am like I am comfortable doing and so not something that like I can do, right? She even has a moment
Mhm.
where she tells Joan, she's like, Joan's like, I'm just trying to help you because she's being really bitchy about her looks and everything. And she goes,
Yeah.
yeah, I know you are. I know you are. You just don't know any other way to exist because you've never had to. And like, that's a
Mhm.
huge driving point behind where her character ends up. Or, you know,
Yeah.
in this, we have multiple comments where people treat her like she's the top 1% of the most gorgeous women on the planet, right? And it's
It's
like,
kind of
no,
baked into the
no,
premise.
I'm sorry. Like I don't find her super unattractive, but I also like we're being realistic here. You're a very
Yeah.
average looking
You are
woman
you
with great acting talent, you know? Like
Yeah, you are not suited to this character. I don't believe this. You know, I mean, it'd be one what it should be is that like and it could be more interesting. It would be more interesting if she actually was like really like an incredibly beautiful actress, name whoever first comes to your mind. And the tech CEO is, you know, like Elon Musk before the hair transplants kind of thing, where like, you know, or he and where the dynamic is that she's the beautiful trophy wife to a degree, and then when she leaves him, it kind of sends him spiraling, if you will.
yeah,
You know what I
but of
mean?
course they didn't want to do that because that would be
No, and then
too
you could also do the thing where like people, you know, there's a hint of this here, but it doesn't really make any sense in the context of this, where it's like, oh, she's seen as a gold digger. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like if she looked the part and the brother who eventually is like, oh, I've seen a lot of women like try to get at my, you know, brother's money sort of thing. Like if she looked that way, if people like didn't necessarily feel as bad for her as they should, um,
That would be
because
a
like
very interesting dynamic that you could play with in this
yes,
particular
yes,
story, you know?
you know, because she got a lot of money and she, you know, she's very attractive and she lived this lavish lifestyle. And if she like is like, no, this is a horribly abusive thing, but no one really believes her because now he's dead and like she's had every advantage in life, so everyone's kind of, you know, people resent, you know, the way people sort of resent beautiful celebrities, you know, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. It's like you could play into that dynamic, but they don't do that. Instead, it's the opposite version of the 50 Shades of Grey thing, where he's just obsessed with you, even though you're just an average, sheepish, mousy looking girl. And it's just like this doesn't work. You're not taking advantage of the possibilities here. First of all, the premise is kind of a little inherently stupid, but you could do a better job of it.
Yeah,
And that's
exactly.
one way you could improve it. It is kind of funny too when you finally see this guy and you're like, "Oh, he's way more attractive than you." It's like, "Uh-oh." That doesn't seem like the wisest choice. But whatever. But that's
He's
what it has to be because it's the 50 Shades of Grey thing.
oh god. He's out here catching touchdowns, scoring sixes left and right.
Yeah, it's like, oh, and he's gonna ruin his entire life just to make sure she can't leave him. It's like, oh God. Really, and even though he's a narcissist, sociopath, he really wants a baby. It's like, what are we doing? Anyway, let's 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 actually get into the movie now. So the basic overview of the Invisible Man, if you haven't guessed it already, is that Elizabeth Moss is in an abusive relationship with a tech CEO billionaire guy, and at one point she tries to escape in the middle of the night, but of course she has to do all sorts of things to escape
Yeah.
because he's very controlling and he has all this tech and cameras everywhere, and she has to sneak off in the middle of the night to get picked up by her sister. And
And I like one of the things, right, that we have to talk about too, right, is that it's not like, in order to really kind of sell us on this, they tell us that he also, like, when she's running away, the dog you know, comes up to her and is kind of like
mhm.
staring at her, right? And she has a moment where she says, "I'm sorry, I can't take you with me," right? And this is only in the movie to imply also that not only does he, like, because it has to tell us not only does he, abuse her, he's also abusive to the dog. It's only to
um
build sympathy points in that direction. Like, there's no other reason for this to be in there. Is for that to, like, to kind of add to the fire a little bit, add fuel to the fire.
Yeah, because they do the close up of the shock collar as if we're meant to go, oh man, he must be abusive to this dog.
Yes, exactly. Which,
Right.
but
Yeah, whatever.
she comes up and she takes the collar off, and as she's doing this, she elbows the car, the really nice car, which sets off the car alarm, so she has to fuck off, right? And the dog runs away. The dog gets off, like, and hightails it off the out of the garage.
Mm.
And she books it, climbs over a wall, gets out into through the woods to a road, and she starts, looking around for her prearranged ride, which we will find out later is her sister, right?
Mm.
And her sister pulls up. Now, this is an interesting thing, right? Because, like, as we have it now, we've seen a lot of very tense scenes of her. She's clearly had this plan to escape. She's prearranged with her sister to come and pick her up to get her out in the middle of the night. She's drugged him, so he is basically passed the fuck out. Like, he cannot get up. He can't hear what she's doing, really. So she has an opportunity. This gives her a good window to get out.
He's still sneaking around in case he wakes up, but
Yeah,
yes, he's allegedly drugged.
yeah, he is drugged. She has a getaway bag stashed in a vent in the closet. That vent in the closet's going to become important later. So she gets all that. She goes downstairs, and I don't even remember what she does downstairs in his, like, lab. Like, she gets on his computer for some reason, and, like,
Oh,
types
it's
something
turn
in.
off cameras and stuff like that.
Okay, so she turns off all
Secure
the
it has to do
cameras.
with security cameras, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Or no, there's an alarm that she has to turn off as well, like
Okay.
a home alarm system.
Okay, so
That
she
way when
goes
she
down. Yeah.
yeah.
So she's got this plan. She's clearly like she's a battered woman. She has her escape route planned, and it, like, this, things have to go perfectly. Everything has to align. There's a prearranged meeting spot with her sister. There's a prearranged date. Instantly, when she gets in the car with her sister, we find out that her sister has no idea why she's doing this, which is
Yeah.
already, like, a huge hole
Yeah.
in the story.
Yeah. I agree.
That's already a problem.
There's a scene, like, I think it's later. I think it's like a month or two later. It's like, "Are you ever gonna tell me what he did to you?" And it's like, "You haven't had this conversation yet? Fucking really?
Yeah,
Really?
really.
I don't believe you.
Well,
I
and,
don't
like,
believe you."
how stupid can the sister be? Your sister, like, even if she hasn't told you anything, right? She's just like, sends you a message. She's like, I need you to meet me at this road, like on the like there's no landmarks. I need you to
No.
come here on this road in the middle of the night on this random day because this is the like because like this is the and it is super urgent. You need to pick me up.
I'm escaping
I am
this
getting
like
like she like
compound.
even if she doesn't say I'm going to escape, right? You should realize that's exactly what's going on. You
Mhm.
cannot be that dumb that if
Yeah.
somebody tells you like
No, she
I
is that
like
dumb.
but no,
They're all
she
that
is.
dumb. There's plenty more where that came from. Wasserman says, "Oh, so you're not well read in dark romance?" LOL. No, I'm not well read in like softcore porn for women. Uh, forgive me, but you said this premise is so average and overdone. I believe that. I believe this is so average and overdone. The big problem with this movie is that it takes that sort of wish fulfillment, pulpy sort of garbage, like like it's I want to call it YA, but it's not for young adults, it's for adults, but it's that sort of like wish fulfillment fantasy thriller for women that you might find in an airport bookstore. But it's what's funny about that is that it's written by a man, allegedly.
Yeah,
An alleged
it is
man.
Lee Whannell's script, according
And
to all sources.
And it's everyone at the time pretended like it had like that it was greater than that. That it wasn't just some pulpy, generic, stupid horror movie. This movie has unbelievably high reviews. And it's like, what are we doing pretending this is like actually some great work of art? This is just like pulpy, dumb garbage for a very specific kind of audience. This is it's so stupid and we haven't even begun. So anyway, she we that initial sequence of her escaping, God, it was so hard to see. Like usually I don't actually have to turn all the lights off in the living room to like see what's happening in a movie I'm watching, but this is one of those. I'm just like, God damn, I really got to turn all the lights off just to see what's happening, don't I? It's very dimly lit. It's very desaturated, and I don't like looking at it. Anyway, so she takes the collar off the dog. She says she can't take the dog with her, presumably because that's like theft of property or something. But she takes the shock collar off to be like, oh, he
Well,
can't.
she has a change of heart, right? She's like, I can't leave you with him. So she's planning on taking the dog with her at the moment that she turns back to, get the collar off. But she's so bad at doing it that she elbows the car, causing the alarm to go off, causing the dog to freak out and run away. So she has to freak out and run away. So
Yeah,
she just fucks
ultimately
up.
alerting him to her as well, as we'll see in a minute. But also, it would have been really stupid to take the dog as well, because if you're just escaping an abusive relationship and you just want to get away, that's one thing. You get a restraining order, whatever it is you do, which is something she never does. I don't know why. Presumably, just
Presumably
this
you
like
could
really
assume that like
naive,
he's
stupid.
like you could assume maybe that like she's, but they never mention this, so like it's not really
She
like
never even tries. Let's
she
not
never
write it for him.
tries, and like the only thing that I could see is just like is she just like really worried that he's so rich and well
So
connected
powerful.
that
Yeah,
like that's which is really lame as a
it is.
as a story trope, but
It's an
fine, I guess
excuse.
whatever.
Yeah. But
Even
anyway,
even
it would.
paying lip service to that would have been fine, but they don't do it.
Yes. No,
So
they don't. Also, it would have been really stupid to take the dog because it'd be like, "That's my dog," and then
yeah.
the police would come after her, and then you know what I mean? Like that would be really stupid. Take the dog with you, but also implying that he abuses the dog also because he's just that controlling man. So then her sister picks her up and they're about to leave, and she's like, "Just drive," and then he comes
He comes
running up from the
charging out of the
darkness,
woods, like
punches the window.
somehow in the exact same like she was running through the woods, like it must have been in just a pure straight line for him to be able to get there. But he comes barreling out of the woods and runs up and punches the window of the car out because he's just that pissed off, right? Which is
Yeah, so Topaz dude mentions like, okay, so we assume without a lot of evidence, just because like it's wearing a shock collar, that he's abusive to the dog. I can understand her wanting to like set it free, but actually, if her plan is actually to take it with her, that's very, very stupid. And she is so unbelievably paranoid about him finding her, and like she just wants a clean escape. Taking the dog with her would be like incredibly retarded because that's his dog. You know what I mean? Like that
yeah.
would be she is so like unbelievably terrified of him even knowing where she is like if she took the dog with him, he would have every reason to come find her. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't seem like something she
Yeah,
would
like
do.
she would have entered into John Wick territory. Like
Yeah.
it's like
Uh,
everybody knows that you're super justified in committing mass murder if your dog gets hurt. Like everybody knows that. That
Everybody
is
knows
written
that.
into the
That's
law of
just
America. Okay,
yeah. Yeah.
and so like she really shouldn't have given him even the glimmer of an opportunity to make this all legal. But
Yeah.
she
So he
does.
come after her. Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, she like he comes running up, punches through the windows, like, "You get back here right now!" He's
Get out of the
freaking
car,
out.
you stupid bitch! Oh my god! Oh, I'll kill
There's
you
blood
for.
everywhere, and then they're screaming, and then they drive away, and he's just left standing there, and it's like, oh, I guess he's a real bad guy, huh? So like,
Oh, wait a
there's just
minute. Hold on, real quick, because Daily Dose just brought up a really good point. She knows she has to scale the wall to get out.
hey, maybe that's a really athletic dog. Who knows? It looked like a pretty athletic dog. I could believe that dog could jump that wall. Honestly,
Okay.
I can believe that. I've seen dogs do crazy shit like that, and it looks like a good dog.
He does look
Anyway,
like a good dog. He is a
but
good
but
dog.
yeah, she doesn't have a good plan of how to get the dog out over the wall. That's for damn sure. Um, so
Just gonna
uh,
throw it.
there's just like a total lack of sophistication regarding how we're characterizing this guy. Like she escapes in the middle of the night, and he's so controlling that instead of just hunting her down later, actually goes running after her and punches through a window. Like she could report that to the police. That's a retarded thing to do. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
why
it's
would he
real.
do
Yeah,
that?
that's really well, and it's even dumber that the sister has to then later because like she just watched that happen to her car, right?
Yeah,
It's even dumber that later on the sister has to be like, "Are you ever gonna tell me what he did to you? You don't need to know at this point." Like,
yeah.
look what he
He
did
abused
when he
her.
thought she was like when he found out she was leaving in the middle of the night. Like,
Yeah, he
you don't
punched her
like
car window and
he
tried to strangle
shattered your
her.
car window.
Yeah.
You should
So
be
like,
like fully on her side.
yeah. Already, I'm not interested in this character, the main villain, I should say, because I'm just like, oh, he's just stupid. Like he's not even subtle about it. You know what I mean?
Well, and the
But
movie is
we
going to spend the rest of the entire middle point of this movie telling us how brilliant and
and
manipulative
subtle,
and
clever he
Machiavellian
is.
he
Yeah,
is.
but he's not here. He just roids out for no good reason. It's really really stupid, and I don't believe it. And it's but you know why it's here, right? Is because we need something spooky to happen in this initial sequence, or else this isn't a horror movie. Like
Yeah.
that's everything is downstream from the stupid generic horror movie spooks in action. Like everything is like built with those in mind first, and then we have to work backwards from there. And it shows. It's all throughout the movie. He has not done a good job of justifying them. Like we need something spooky to happen. That's the only reason he does that. Not because it makes any sense for his character or how he's supposed to be, shown for the rest of the movie. We can't just have a whole scene of her thinking she's in danger, but ultimately nothing comes of it because that's what would happen. We can't have that, or else people are going to be bored. Teenagers that came to watch this movie are going to be bored. So,
Daily Dose said, but he's a leader in the field of optics. Doesn't he know how this would look?
that's
Fuck you. That's a good joke. Fuck you.
good. I like it.
That's
I like it.
that's
That's
a
good.
really good joke.
So now we learn that she is staying at
She's crashing at her hot black friend's house. That's
well, this is a friend of her sister's, to be extra
no,
specific.
no, no, no. He talks about like he's like, no, I'm her very good friend. Like I am your very good friend. He says that multiple times in this movie. They are,
Okay,
yeah.
fair, but I always got the vibe that the sister helped set this up. Like that, is that not what
Given no,
happened?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Given
whatever.
how like hands off the sister becomes like
Yeah,
instantly
yeah.
moving
Well,
forward.
because she's gonna demand like, Don't come visit me." Like she's staying at this because she's staying at the hot black friend's house, presumably because a rich guy doesn't know about it, right?
Yes.
And so that's why she's not staying with her sister, right? And at one point she gets really really mad at her sister for showing up. She's like, "I told you not to come here. Now because he could be following you and blah 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 blah." And so she's gonna do that horseshit later. But so
She does, yeah. She's gonna do that pretty quickly, actually, because like we have a
yeah,
whole scene about how she's been afraid to even like walk to the mailbox since she showed up, however long ago it was, right? Because she's
yeah, she's afraid to go
terrified that
outside.
he's out there and he's just gonna like run up and kidnap her right off the street, right? As her
Yeah,
friend her friend who's a cop, by the way. We have to like bring this up because the movie doesn't do this until later. He is a
I
police
know.
officer.
I didn't. I It shocked me when I learned that he was a police officer later. I was like, wait a minute, wait a minute. We should have been doing a lot with that. That we're not. Uh,
Like, yeah, like so she's staying with her cop friend, and she's afraid that if she walks to the mailbox while he's like watching from the door, that she's gonna get lady napped or something. Which is what the movie tries to play with in this exact scene, because she walks out to the mailbox to get whatever's in there, and
mhm.
it does this really nice like. And now I did like what they did here, right? Because like they do a little
Jogger.
cut where she kind of like the camera pans up and looks at her, and she's not looking, but there's somebody in a hoodie who kind of looks like the same guy,
Maybe, yeah.
her ex, just like jogging down the street, but like running at her. And I was like, oh well, yeah, I mean that's good, right? But then she immediately like she turns around, sees it, she freaks out, she runs back into the house. But so we understand now what she is afraid of is that he would like come up and kill her right in front of like all these other people. So he is that like what we're supposed to understand from this is that he is just that brazen and
I mean, we
crazy.
saw it in the last scene.
Yeah,
So what we've established so far is that he's actually just a psychopath, like
yeah.
a psycho, not a psychopath. He's actually just
He's like a
gonna
slasher
run up.
movie psycho. Yeah, like
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
even like
That's what I
clever.
meant. Yeah,
He's like about to run up. Like he'll kill
he would.
he'd kill her in broad daylight, is what she believes.
Yeah, yeah, that's what she believes. But then for the rest of the movie, he's a super clever Machiavellian, subtle genius. And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't follow from what we just saw. Because if that's who he is and that's who he's been the whole time, if we ignore the scene of him punching the car window, then there's no reason to suspect her. Like that he would just run up as a jogger and like kill her right there. Because he wants her back. That's the whole thing. That's it. We're gonna be told later in the movie that he secretly gets her pregnant because he wants her to come back and be stuck with him and be his wife because he just wants to control her. He wants her back. And he doesn't want her dead. He wants her to give birth to his baby.
But we'll find out later that she knows that. Like
Yeah, it's
she
even
is
worse.
that like that's
So
the reason that she decided to leave is because she couldn't like the birth control that she was taking secretly ran out. And so she was like, "Well, fuck, he's gonna get me pregnant if I
yeah,
stick around, so I
if I
have
get
to go
pregnant, then I'm
now."
stuck. Right. And so that no, I have to go now. And then he runs into the car, smashes the window. It looks like he's gonna strangle her because he's a slasher movie villain in that scene. And then in this scene, he's like the whole fear is that he's a slasher movie villain as well. Because like, what's he going to if he's just a jogger running up to her? What's he going to do
Yeah, exactly. What's he gonna do?
if he wants her back? You know what I mean? Like, obviously, she doesn't want to see him. That's all fine. But like,
Yeah, like, and he doesn't like. So she picked this place because he doesn't know where it is, right? So like she like,
yeah,
and it works sort of with the fear of the like just the fear of her or her fear of going outside, right? She's like, I don't know what he could be doing, what he could be thinking. I don't
right,
mind that, right? But
yeah.
it's like you really like he is jacked, right? But like then later on we're gonna see her friend, and I'm just like, you expect me to believe he could outrun that guy with a woman in his arms? Like, I don't know, man. Like, I think you should
Yeah.
feel. I think
Yeah,
this should provide some level of some measure of comfort. Um,
the movie just changes its mind about who he is as a character and what the actual threat he poses is. So it's I
yeah,
don't know, it's pretty stupid. Anyway,
it's a silly
so
thing, but yeah. So she goes back in, she's freaked out, and then the sister comes to visit,
and
and
she at first was like, "I told you not to come here," blah blah blah, and this
he
is
could be
like, "Well, I thought
following
you
you. He
wanted to
knows
see
where
this."
you live. He probably followed you here. And the sister's like, "Would you calm down, bitch? He's dead."
What? He's dead? Oh my gosh! And then so that's exciting, but at first she doesn't know how to process it. She goes into the bathroom and
When she
sits
shows
down
her a
on the
news
floor.
story, she shows it on her phone. Like CNN is reporting on this man's death, right?
Yeah,
So this is like we've gone through the investigation. We like it's like, oh, he's dead in apparent suicide. So somebody has shown, like, people have shown up, found him, and then like put that out in the press. Like, it is there, right? He
Okay,
is
here's
dead for all intents and purposes in the public eye.
Daily Dose asks a great question that I was also about to ask. How exactly does he fake his death? He's a very famous. Okay, so let's just say Elon Musk. Elon Musk, how does Elon Musk fake his own suicide in this day and age? Like with no body showing up. Remember, like I mean, like there's no body.
Well,
There's never a
there
body.
is technically like it's weird because like they have photos. We'll find out later from the brother, right? They have crime scene photos of him lying dead in his bathroom in a pool of blood, and he has an urn full of ashes. I mean, the urn could be empty, right? But like
Yeah, there
something
could be
had to
empty.
happen.
They took photos of him in a pool of blood.
Yeah,
Someone did.
yeah.
Obviously, it wasn't the police. So why did usually the police would take their own photos? So like what did the police come and just be like, we already took care of the body. Here's the photos I took of the crime. Like, how does this happen? I don't understand because like they don't have a body because he's not dead. So what?
Yeah,
How did what do the police think happened here? How does any of this work?
I,
And yeah, and Wasserman just pointed off. This is what the movie's logic is. He's rich. He can just make any of this stuff happen. It's like no, 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 no. No, you can't.
no.
Where is his body? Why were the police like? What? How did this get out to the press that he killed himself without anyone finding out that there is no body?
Yeah. It's I mean it there we're not going to go any further than it. This is the be all end all of it. He's dead. He's in that urn. And that's it.
It's so stupid. You can't just hand wave that away. But anyway, so it's
Travion Washington
national.
is asking why didn't he just self-immolate himself, or why didn't he just self-immolate in a parking lot with a camera on him? That's a great question because like that works out really well for other billionaires.
So yeah, he just inexplicably it's international news that he's dead and killed himself, so they know the cause of death, but somehow it's not a problem that there is no body because he's not actually dead. It reported missing, presumed dead would be a better story,
Well, and that
you
would
know.
be more interesting because then she's just like, but he's not. Like, there's no like she
There's,
could. The
there's no way.
paranoia would
Exactly.
drive a
Yep.
wedge between her and her friends.
Yep. Yep, because if he was like on a fishing trip or whatever, and the boat, whatever, missing, presumed dead, like what's it called? Like what's it called? What's the thing that Mark Zuckerberg did? And he has that famous photo of him with his face covered in sunscreen. Paddleboarding? Is that
Yeah.
what it was?
No. He was like jetpacking.
What?
Yeah. He was like he like water jetpacks. Like he was flying.
Okay, whatever it is, he's doing some sort of excursion thing, and then oh no, he's missing, presumed dead. That's what you do.
Yeah.
Because this just doesn't make sense. You haven't justified this. You haven't earned this.
Dude, I like so Georgius Rex just posted a thing about like I guess he kidnapped a hobo, altered him surgically to resemble himself, and killed him all off screen. And I'm just reminded of that episode of Archer where the one guy like paid a hobo to file his teeth down to match his dental records, and then killed him, and then killed the dentist who did it because he had to cover his tracks.
Oh, that's pretty funny. Well, he is a wakeboarding. Is that what it was?
I thought he was doing something like wakeboarding is one thing. That's like go like basically like hanging off of the back of a boat with a
Yeah, whatever it is,
surfboard.
it doesn't matter. I just thought, I'm just laughing at the Archer thing. Oh, I lost my train of thought. What was it? Oh, like he is a leader in the field of optics, so I guess he can just fake his own death. Whatever, it's fine. So now she's breathing a little bit. She's learning to live again because she realizes that her abuser is dead. And this is the point where like, are you ever going to tell us what he did to you? And it finally kind of comes out that he was very controlling, controlled everything she did and said and even thought. And like mentally, and then the implication is physical as well, though that's not really, we don't specify any particular type of physical abuse. It's implied, right? And then she gets what, an email or a letter or something? Oh yeah, she gets a letter because they're like, wait, this is from him. How does no, it's not from him, but she gets a letter.
Well, it's from like his brother. So
It's from the
essentially, like,
lawyer.
who we will find out eventually is essentially him, right? Like
Yes.
they're
Yeah.
not independent characters.
But so the point is,
Zuckerberg
she
was
gets a letter and
hydrofoiling, by the way.
hydrofoiling. What the fuck is
It's
that?
like electric surfboarding,
Oh,
basically.
okay.
Yeah.
Rich people shit. Anyway, so she gets a letter and it's like, what the hell? No one's supposed to know that I'm here. How's this letter addressed to me arriving here? And it's from the lawyer. And so she goes to meet with the lawyer, and we learn, hold on, I got a sneeze coming. Oh, it's gone. So we learn from the lawyer that she was brought here because there was money set aside for her. And so she starts reading the will and testament.
When the will is like basically the suicide note, it's his brother's. Like the lawyer is the brother of the ex, and her lawyer is her sister. So like conflicts of interest abound in this. But we're not gonna nitpick about that. He starts reading the suicide note, basically.
You know what? I'm gonna nitpick about it because it just speaks to like how small this story is. You know what I mean? Like everyone's lawyer is just their sibling, really?
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, go ahead.
Well, he starts
will
reading
and
the suicide note aloud, and and he's being like really like he's just like, I can't believe you would allow this. Like I'm like to jeopardize everything that we had just because of some shit you thought I did. You know, like all this. Like,
Yeah, really
and,
petty.
And the sister's like, okay, enough, right? And he goes, I'm required by law to read this. It's like, no,
like,
you're
well, we're not required by law to listen, so send it in an email. And it's like, what are we doing? This dialogue is
what is
horrible.
this?
And so then it's like, well, okay.
We only agreed to come here because my sister deserves money, is basically.
You promised us money. And so he says that, do you remember? It's like $50 million that gets left to her.
No, it's like 5. It's 5 million. And he says state.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because he's going to pay it out over the next 4 years in increments of $100 million or $100,000 a month or something like that. It's not like a crazy amount.
Okay, it's 5 million. You're
Yeah.
right. I thought it was 50. But yes, 5 million, estate and income tax free, and she'll get it, like you said, $100,000 a month for the next 4 years or so, contingent on the fine print. You can't commit a crime, etc. So what we'll eventually learn is that this is just like part of the ruse on behalf of the brother who is still alive. Sorry, the ex who is still alive. He's got his brother to do this for him, and so he's leaving her a whole bunch of money just to take it away from her later, which is remarkably funny and petty.
Yes,
I think
it is really well, and like this is one of the ones. One of the things that Shane Gillis mentioned in his commentary on the movie, right, is that how does she start using? So she's getting $100,000 a year, right? And how does she start using it? She like immediately. She offers to pay for her black friend's daughter to go to fashion school, which she's lifting the black family up out of the poverty of blue collar life. You know, like she gets to go to fashion school and she can go to grad school for fashion. Great. What a useful way. What a useful way to spend your time.
I know, but what they're obviously establishing is that she's trying to be generous,
yes, yeah,
and altruistic, and trying to like repay them for letting her stay with her for however long it's been, a month or so. And so and then she's like, oh, well,
I feel like for a month you like clean the sheets and maybe like mop. You do a nice clean of the kitchen.
Take them out to dinner.
Take them out to dinner. You know, a nice dinner. I don't know if paying for
rent,
all
whatever.
your college tuition is really like.
But okay, so to give the movie some credit, there is a little bit of something to the fact that like she wants to give some of it away, because like she doesn't feel like it's hers really, and it's because it's attached to him that she just kind of wants to get rid of it. Like there's something there, you know what I mean? Like a weird feeling, guilt of whether you earn or deserve this money, and so you want to you want to spend it the right way by giving it to other people you like, and stuff like that. There's something there to appreciate, I guess, about her character.
Yeah.
Even though it's for fashion school, which you don't need.
I mean, she's still keeping $90,000 a month for herself. Like
it's something. It's quite a big chunk, right? And then she splurges on a ladder for the hot black friend.
Yeah. Hey, look, I got you a ladder. And I'm
Your
paying
other
for your
ladder was
like
broken,
your other
so
ladder was
here's a nice
shitty, so I got
ladder.
you a good one.
So then, they're celebrating and then they're being happy together. Then she goes into a room by herself and then she hears something. She looks across the room and ooh, but there's nothing there. It's the next morning and we hang on this wide shot, which is like it's a nice shot and all, but we haven't really done this anywhere else in the movie, so it really stands out like, we're gonna do something spooky here. You know what I mean? It draws a lot of attention to it. But anyway, it's the kitchen in the morning. He's like, I gotta go to work at my job. I'll see you later. Do you mind do you mind making sure that my daughter is up for school for me? And she's like, sure. And she's making breakfast.
I'm cooking breakfast. Don't even worry about it. I'm not. I don't got anything going on for the rest of the day. I'm essentially a millionaire, and
And then so she goes to wake up the daughter, and then while she's out of the room, we've just been hanging on this shot, and we're obviously indicating that something spooky is about to happen because this is the longest we've held on a shot in the entire movie, essentially. And so she leaves the room, and then oh my gosh, the burner gets turned up, the like full blast on the bacon and eggs and stuff on the stove. And then it erupts in flames, and they come back and they're like, "Oh my god, oh my gosh!" She almost makes the really dumb decision to throw water on it, which would have been very, very bad,
it
but
would have
very,
been
very
very, very
funny.
funny.
And the daughter has to be like, "No, don't throw water on it." And then she grabs the fire extinguisher, put it out, which is quite funny because it's just kind of a little bit more evidence of how stupid she is.
Yeah, well, and then she like even better because like not only does that happen, but she goes, "Do you think we can salvage it?" Like serious question. She doesn't ask that as like a joke or anything.
It's like a joke to me.
Did it sound like
It
that?
seemed like a joke to me. Like, do
Okay.
you think we can salvage it? Like as a joke? Like, haha.
Okay.
So,
I didn't get that, but you know that's maybe I was not paying enough attention. But yeah, so she like
yes.
yeah, she almost threw some
Then
water on it. So basically, his first prank is he's gonna make everybody think she's a terrible cook. Uh,
that's why him being like a really, really petty Machiavellian goofball is so funny to me because it's little stuff like this at first. Just like, oh, I made you burn breakfast, haha. Like that's so funny.
don't you look fucking stupid? That's why I was
That's
saying
so
like he should
funny.
have just ripped a colossal fart while the three of them were sitting around watching a movie together, and then like they just blame it on her. Like he's
Yeah.
ruining their relationship by being like making it look like she's just an incompetent, gross person. That would have been fucking hilarious.
So now it's nighttime, and we're doing like, oh, she thinks she hears something. Oh, she's walking around a dimly lit house, and oh my god, is something spooky gonna happen? Oh, generic or like modern horror movie trash. And so then she walks outside. Oh, and there's nothing outside. And then she goes back into the bed, and the covers get pulled off of her. And then there's like a floating phone in the air that's taking pictures of her while she's asleep. That kind of wakes her up, but not enough for her to like notice that the flashes is what woke her up. And she sees something at the foot of her bed, but oh my goodness, it's not actually him. It's just like
Oh,
a coat rack.
no, it's the fashion mannequin that because
Right.
the daughter's going to fashion
Fashion
school
school, of
because
course.
so we have a mannequin in the room that can throw a little visual like
Oh my god, is that
left
someone in
hook
the
at you.
room?
Yeah,
Oh my god, no, it's just the mannequin with a hat on it that looks exactly like a person. Like it's just I don't know, it's also cheap, man. So then she gets up and then she's like, "Why were the covers off the bed?" She goes to grab them and then
and he's
he
just
just
standing on the covers like, haha, you can't pull them out from under my feet.
yeah, he pulls the blankets off. That's what I said, right?
Yeah, so yeah, it like covers sheets something. Yeah, he pulls the blanket off and
Yeah.
yeah, and he takes some
Yeah.
pictures of them.
Yeah, and then he stands on the covers like, haha, you can't pull them
Where
up.
does
And
the
then
phone go? Is like he's taking pictures,
yeah,
right? Where and like
in
the
his
phone
invisible
disappears.
pocket. You.
Yeah,
It went in his
Hey man,
invisible
you know what?
pocket.
That's true. A man built the suit. There are pockets. It's a suit designed for a man. There are pockets. That's fair.
Correct. Yes, he puts it in his invisibility pocket, and then he stands on the sheets, and she tries to pull them, and he's like, "Haha, you can't pull the sheets because I'm standing on them." And then he like steps forward on the sheets, and then she freaks out, and then the dad runs in. He's like, "What the hell is going on here?" And everyone's freaking out, like, "There's someone in the room. There's someone in the room." And I guess he's just like incredible at being perfectly silent. This is going to be a recurring theme All the things he manages to do while being absolutely perfectly silent. It's really quite
It's really,
remarkable.
really impressive,
It's almost
actually.
more it's almost more miraculous than the invisibility suit.
Yeah, Travion Washington would say he could have left some racist literature on the table with her name and address on it. Like he could have just built a little like AI voice modulator. Like if a couple years later this movie had got made, he could have built a little AI voice modulator in the suit and just started saying the N word in front of them in her voice.
N-word, 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 yeah.
What the fuck? No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I swear. It
You can make
sounded like
racist
you.
you can make offensive tweets in her name. Like that one, like you can just all the hits, like the one lady who remember she like was flying to Africa, like I just flew back from Africa. Good thing I didn't get any AIDS or whatever.
Yeah,
And then like
yeah.
everyone dogpiled her. Stuff like that. Like in her name. That'd be pretty funny.
There's also like a
Um,
comment about doing frat jokes, like putting her hand in a bowl of water and everything. Like it really could have been funny if he like to really sow discord in the family. Like he's drawing dicks on her face while she's asleep, and then she's blaming them because like obviously she didn't do it. If he was really a Machiavellian genius, he would have come up with these things. That's what I'm
yes.
saying here. Like he's
Oh, the hand in the bowl of water would be especially funny because she's sharing a bed with the
yeah,
daughter.
exactly.
So she'd be in bed while she's in bed with someone else. Uh, that'd be pretty great. No, but instead he pulls the covers off, takes a few pictures of her, and then it's like, "Ha, I'm standing on the covers." And then the dad like runs into the room, like, "What's going on?" It's like, "No, someone was in the room." But of course, she's not fully ready to believe that he has turned himself invisible yet.
Well, she doesn't
Because
like have any reason to believe that at the moment. Like,
at the moment,
yeah.
no. So of course she it's more like a ghostly encounter. He even has some line like he's like, "He can only haunt you if you let him."
Yeah, and that's the scene that like Shane Gillis was talking about, where he's like his tricep is like a foot out from his arm, like his body is like absolutely unrealistic. Yeah, because he comes in and he's like he straight up hard flexes that thing out there. Yeah, it's fucking insane.
Oh yeah, Mordecai's the actual line was, "Hope I don't get AIDS." Just kidding, I'm white. Like, yep.
Got
Like
it, got him.
that's pretty funny.
Good joke.
Yep, and it was a joke. It was intended as a joke, and ever like she got fired for it because that was the time. That's where we were culturally. Anyway, so it's the next day after this haunting incident, and she's going in for a job as an architect because we learned that she's actually a creative person and she's an architect, and she'd like to get back to being an architect because the implication is that she really couldn't be creative because she was being controlled by the evil man. So now she can get back to doing what she loves, which is being an architect. So she shows up to this firm. They have their job interview like out in the open instead of in like a conference room or something, which I found strange. But never mind. So it's time to. He's like, "Why don't you show us some of her work? Some
Well,
of
the
your
first
work."
thing he says, because she tells him that she went to Paris for a little while, and he goes,
Hmm.
"Why Paris? Is it just like a rule that all the beautiful women in the world have to live there for
Oh
a
my
few months
god, I
after
forgot.
graduation?"
I forgot he said that. Yep.
Yeah.
Uh, uh, that's so bad. It's so bad. Uh, okay, here's the question. Do you think he wrote that line when he knew he was going to cast her, or did that come later? I want to know at what stage in the process was she attached to the project.
Like he was like, I wrote this part for Charlize Theron, and they were like, "Well, you get Elizabeth Moss," and he's just like, "Are you sure?"
Anyway, so yeah, he pulls that like absolute clunker of a line out for her, and she's like,
Well, I went there because I can speak a little bit of French, and I'm
bullshit,
really
bullshit,
good at
time-wasting
architecture.
conversation, time-wasting bullshit.
Yeah,
And then he's like, "Okay, well, why don't you show us some of your work?" And I'm like, "You haven't seen any of her work yet?
it's
You get an
2020.
in-person,
It's
you get
2020. You could upload that.
you get a job interview at an architecture firm in person without ever having shown them any of your work already?
What did they?
That
What did
seems,
she submit in the online application? Is what I want to know.
yeah, or is this like, did she get this through a friend? Like,
We
who
don't know. It
knows?
doesn't. Either
Anyway,
way. She pulls out her portfolio and she opens it, and oh no, it's empty.
Which is very funny. So this is the kind of petty pranks he's playing on her, and I'm rooting for him, honestly, at this point. Like, now that I've like let go of him being like a slasher movie villain that he was in those opening scenes. Now he's like just like a petty prankster. I'm like, oh, this is pretty fun. He's just fucking with her and making her seem like an idiot, making her seem all scatterbrained and everything. I also like the fact that like she can't tell that her portfolio bag is like completely empty.
Yeah, like
You
all of
think you'd be able to tell,
her
but
heavy
whatever.
stock paper that she did her illustrations on, none of that is none
So
of
here's
that's
the
in
thing.
there. She can't feel that difference.
You didn't check it like right before. Like, when did
She
she
didn't
pack it
check it
up?
before she
I don't
left
know.
the house or
Yeah,
anything. Yeah. And like
no.
she can't even she doesn't even recover well cuz like she could be like, "Ah, I left it in my other pants," make a joke or something, I don't know.
Yeah.
But she doesn't. She just kind of freaks out instantly, and he's not being mean about it or anything, but
No, he's like, oh well, you can send it to us later. But she freaks out
she
hard,
freaks
and
out hard. She stands up and she passes out. And he's just like, "Whoa!" Right? And she like very next scene, we're in the hospital, and it turns out she was drugged with the
yeah,
same like the same medication that made her ex, this like 200-pound extremely fit man, pass out and sleep through basically until a car alarm went off, like he was just out, right? So like
yeah.
my question is, did she only start to feel the effects of that when she opened her portfolio and realized that it was empty?
It makes no sense.
Because she
It
she
makes
really
no sense.
probably should have been like slurring or is like something. I don't know.
Woozy. Yeah, or like, I'm sorry, I'm just feeling a little sick today. I'm not really sure why, but I'm really grateful for this opportunity to meet with you. That sort of thing. Or she's already feeling a little under the weather and she's not sure why. And then when this hits her, she stands up and freaks out, and that causes her to pass out. Something like
Something
that.
like that. Even
But
just a little
instead,
like
she
I'm a
seems
little under the weather. A
perfectly
scene of
fine.
her getting ready. Anything. Like maybe she
Yeah,
overslept or something, right? Like cuz she
yeah,
was drugged a while
yeah.
ago
Because
and
he
so she's
unplugged the
groggy.
alarm clock or something. He went into her phone and changed the alarm from AM to PM. Something goofy and petty like that.
Georgius Rex is like, it would have been funnier if it were the placard from Die Hard 3. You're aware of what that is?
No, I
It's when
don't.
he's
I think.
walking around the black neighborhood at the beginning of the movie with a sign
Oh,
on him.
okay. Yep, 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 yep. I know what you mean.
I mean, like going back to the Archer references here, it could have been like a blueberry muffin on a plate at this point.
So, yeah, for no particular reason, she's not feeling any of the effects of the like sedation of the drug she's been drugged with. As soon as she realizes that she doesn't have her portfolio with her, she just immediately collapses, and they're like,
Yeah,
"You've
she's
been
half
drugged."
fainting goat.
And then she realizes the drug. Oh my gosh, it's the drug that she used to drug him. She's putting the pieces together. And then isn't the next step they go to meet with the brother who is the lawyer again. I love whoever mentioned it earlier that like if the guy has his own brother as his lawyer, like he sucks. Like there's no
Yeah.
way. This guy would have the best lawyers in the country. It would be a team of lawyers probably. But I guess if you're faking your own death, you got to keep things close to the chest. But then again, why is it national news? It's everything about it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, we go to visit the brother who's the lawyer, and she's already leapt to the conclusion. Oh, but here's the other thing, because this is how cheap this is, right? The bottle of the drug that she was being drugged without her knowing has the bloody handprint on it from when he picked it up at the beginning of the
Yeah,
movie.
because she dropped it out of the car
Yes.
when she was scrambling to get everything in because her sister was a little late. Because apparently she didn't fill her sister in on the details of what they were escaping
Yep.
from.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyway,
So this is him playing his hand kind of very overtly here, like by leaving that bottle with her with the bloody handprint on it. That's like from his bloody hand when he punched through the window. And he's like, "See, this is me doing this to you." And then immediately she's like, "He's not really dead. He's not in that urn over there. Something's going on here."
well, and
And then
she goes with her hot black friend, who is a cop,
Mhm.
right,
Yeah.
to the brother's office to confront the brother about, like, he must not be really dead, right? Which this is going to become a problem later because he has no reason to believe that her ex is not dead. Like,
He's also there. There's even a line, I believe, where he's like, I don't know why I'm here, but I trust my friend, so I'm sure it's for a damn good reason.
yeah, so I'm gonna need you to sit up straight and show a little respect. Yeah, it's like,
Oh God, dude.
Jesus Christ, did Tyler Perry write this movie?
And then she's like, oh, and then she reveals that the reason we're here is that he's not really dead. He must have faked his own death somehow. It, and then no, it goes even further. It's like, well, he's a leader in the field of optics, so he must have found a way of making himself invisible. Like she leaps to this conclusion really quickly, all things considered. Pretty funny. But then we get to one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. I want to get it exactly right. Just a moment. So she's talking to the brother, and the brother is like, "Listen, I didn't like my brother, your ex, either. He always tried to control me as well. I'm on your side. Like I never really liked him, but that was his way. He tried to control people. So like, this he's not really doing. He's just dead, and this is all just like this is how he controls people with mind games. Like you're letting him win by thinking he's still controlling you, like that sort of thing."
Yeah.
And he says, and I quote, "The only thing more brilliant than inventing something that makes you invisible is not inventing it and making you think he did."
It's it's
It's such a stupid line.
Oh my god, it's so dumb. This is also the scene where he, like, in order to prove that his brother is dead, this is where he whips out the crime scene photos of his brother in a
Yeah.
pool of blood in the bathroom. And like the
Yeah.
cop friend is right there, and he doesn't like
Mhm.
sniff anything wrong with, like, wait, why do you have that? Like, where,
Why do you
who
have
took
this
that?
ready to go?
Why do you have this ready? Why do you have this prepared? Like, as if maybe he's just a traffic cop. He's never actually investigated anything before.
Maybe. I don't
That's
know.
why he has so much time to work out.
Okay. I'm going to talk about all the things wrong with that line. The most obvious thing that's wrong with it is that inventing invisibility tech is more impressive than gaslighting your homely ex-girlfriend. Um, like,
Like,
it is more
objectively,
impressive. Yeah,
objectively speaking, yeah,
yes.
anybody could
Uh,
gaslight Elizabeth Moss. Like, let's be real.
the other, she's a Scientologist, so
Yeah,
um,
they've already done a number on her.
all the infrastructure is in place. So what's really funny about this to me is that he actually is like, no, like you see he's no, it's actually like 3D chess. He's actually no 4D chess, I should say. 3D chess, 4D chess. He's a genius because he didn't actually invent invisibility tech because that would just be too basic. He just convinced you he did. That's how brilliant he is, man. And she take it like it's just so pathetic, dude. Like and also it's really clunkily said too. It's not good dialogue writing. It's just
It's
Lee
just
Whannell.
dumb.
It's just dumb. Yeah. It is glass onion levels of logic. Oh, it's really funny. Anyway, so then he shows the crime scene photos, like, see, he's definitely dead. And then the cop is just like, yep, I don't smell anything wrong with this.
Why would
Then,
I don't know why you wouldn't have those, to be honest. Like,
and then she goes to visit. Is it her sister?
she goes to visit her sister, and her sister is pissed about that nasty email that she sent, from her computer that morning. It's like,
And she's like, wait a minute, what email?
what email? I didn't send a fucking email. And it's just like, when, like, you go and look at it, and it's like a fucking manifesto, right? Like, it's a schizoid manifesto when she
Yeah.
ends up checking it out. But at this point, I'm sitting there like, this sister, there is no, what? Okay, what is the relationship between these two women? That they were one weird, crazy email like this away from completely dissolving their familial bond. Like, she would call her to come and pick her up in the middle of the night on a
Hmm.
random street a couple yards from where, like, through the woods from where she lives. But they're also so strained that this one email just kind of says everything that the sister, like, you get the idea that the sister was like, I always knew you felt this way, you know, blah, 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 or that you're kind of crazy and all that. But why? Like, it just comes out of nowhere
Yeah.
to just take away more of her connections, which
I
is
wish I could.
nuts.
Yeah, and I wish I had it in front of me, like what the email actually says, because it doesn't really sound like her either, if I remember correctly. The impression I got from the email was like, oh, I wouldn't. I'd be like, what the? This doesn't sound like you at all. Is the first thought. What's gotten into you? Why are you talking like this? This isn't how you normally talk. Because it's basically like, I don't want you in my life anymore. All this sort of stuff, and it's like that doesn't seem like their relationship at all. You'd be like, the follow-up question would be like, why did you send that? Like, what happened? What's wrong? Like, let's talk about it.
No,
Not,
she's just
oh, okay.
instantly like, I knew it. You don't ever contact me again. You know, you need help. You need to get drugs. Like, yeah,
Yeah,
like
yeah. She just like she writes her off immediately. Doesn't even
slams
want
the
to
door in her face.
understand
Even
why.
when she's
Yeah,
saying like,
yeah,
I didn't write that email, she slams the door in her face.
yeah. It's so dumb.
It doesn't make any fucking sense.
No, yeah, no, it doesn't.
And
And
like
then
at one
she's
point, like there's one line in there that it highlights because it doesn't show you the whole thing. It's a long fucking email, but there's one line in there that it highlights that says like, I wish you had died instead of, and then it cuts off, right? But you don't know what that says afterward, and so like you're left to kind of just like fill in the blank. Does she
with
mean I wish
the
like,
ex.
is it I
That
wish you had died instead of my ex? Because then she should have known that that's not her. Is
I
it
I
something about the parents? We don't know. We have no fucking clue because we have no
I think
idea what the backstory of their relationship is. It
that's obviously possible. I think the most obvious thing to interpret is the ex. And so it's like, oh, she flipped really hard and is now on the side of the ex-boyfriend.
who
Like
she
something is
now
clearly
but now
wrong.
she's there telling me that the ex-boyfriend is still dangerous and she's worried. It doesn't make any sense.
And that she claims she didn't write the email. And
Yeah.
that doesn't make you think anything about the like the tone and the tenor and what is said in the email and how it doesn't sound like her voice
No,
at
because
all.
the sisters fucking retarded. Like there's
Yes.
no other.
They're all
The
stupid.
sisters really yeah, they're all stupid, but the sister is among the stupidest of them.
For sure. And so then she goes home and then looks at her email to in the dark, by the way, because she's sad. She looks at her email to see what she sent, and then she cries. Instead of calling her or trying to text her and like or writing another email or anything, she just lays down and cries. Great. And so then
Oh,
the
and then
the daughter.
the daughter comes in and sees this grown woman like breaking down on her bedroom floor, and she's just like, you know
Mhm.
what you need? Girls' night. We should get some cake. You know,
Uh,
we should just like get cake and eat it and send my dad away for the night so we can just have girl time, you know?
Lee
Like
Whannell, what are you doing? Stop
is
it.
this what you think is this what you think women talk like? I
Trayvon Washington said, it said, I wish you had died instead of Hitler.
Dude, like if they had played up the idea that she had had some kind of like schizophrenic break in the past and that she had done like a Kanye at one point and that like now she was back on the horse, then I
Yeah.
would be fine with this. But
Yeah.
like the idea that like and Wasserman just mentioned this in the chat says she appears not stable, needed help. She no, it does not that does not logically flow in this story here because yeah, she appears not stable and that she needs help. But the sister is the help. The sister's
Yeah.
already provided the help. Like
Yeah.
there's no reason for the sister to be like, "Oh wow, she just actually had all this like vitriol built up against me." There's no reason. We get no reason for that in the context of the
Nope.
story.
Nope. So then they're having girls' night and
No, they're
just
not. It doesn't even get out of the conversation about
oh right,
having
right,
girls'
right,
night
right.
because then he comes in and just bitch slaps the daughter.
Okay. So yes, this is what prank number 3. If we're not including
If
some of
we
the
should
like
include the email and everything. We're like
yes.
5 deep on
Okay.
the
So the
pranks.
next prank is that when they're having this heart to heart about like, oh, we're gonna have girls' night, yeah, and they're bonding, whatever. He just slaps the black girl in the face really hard and makes it seem like Elizabeth Moss did it. Oh, it's so funny.
Well,
It
she immediately assumes Elizabeth Moss did it because you
as you
would,
would.
as you
Yeah,
would, right?
of course.
But like also the thing is like it hits her in the front. Like this is really where I have a problem, right? It's not like when she turns around, he slaps her in the back of the head or anything.
Yeah.
It's he slaps her in the face as she's looking at Elizabeth Moss.
Yeah.
So she
Here's the
should
thing.
know that she didn't move, right? Like this is
Um,
the
here's
blocking is a
here's
problem.
the blocking is a little bit of a problem, though. Though even with that said, I could imagine. Okay, if I'm in a room with you, and I like start to glance down, I was looking right at you, and I start to glance away, and then I get hit, and it doesn't seem like logically you could have hit me, but literally nothing else could have hit me.
Yeah,
I think
that's fair. That's fair.
the brain would go, "What the fuck? Why did you hit me?" You know, like I can believe it
And
because there's
she is
literally
16 too, so like
yeah.
like that's fine. I'm yeah.
It's not so out like if she was like even further away,
Yeah.
it would be like, what the fuck happened? Did a ghost just slap me?
Yeah.
But it's like right on the cusp. I like you mentioned, I would have blocked it slightly where she like starts to turn away first. You know what I mean? Like I would have, you can fix the blocking so it's a little less distracting, but it's still believable, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah. I mean,
But
it's yeah.
and then she was like, and then she starts going, "Oh my gosh, I would never. Oh my god, I didn't slap her. I didn't. I did not. I did not hit her."
I did not hit her. I did not. And
And the dad's
well,
like,
and so this is the other thing that like kind of bugs me about this, right? Is like they're very close together. It's not a very big house. We've seen the outside of it. You're gonna see it in the trailer in a couple of minutes again. Anyway, it's like a small house. This is a small room. He is not a small man, but he
no.
has slapped this teenager in the face, and now the large father has run in because he heard his daughter freaking out. Right? Where did
Mhm.
he go?
You could ask this about every scene. Every one of these scenes. Where does he go? The
Where
same thing happened when he ran in the middle of the night before. Where did he go? And
Where did he go? Yeah, where did he
how
go?
did he
Where
move
did
around without making any noise?
Yeah,
Is he a
that's
leader in the field of sound, like acoustics as well?
yes, obviously because here we are. But yeah, he
Okay.
disappeared after he
And
slapped this random child.
yeah. And so here's the other thing. He's already been told that this guy who he's already been told the theory by Elizabeth Moss that he's a leader in optics and he's found a way to make himself invisible and he's tormenting me. He knows that theory. Now naturally he wouldn't believe it right away because why would you, right? Sure. Um now we have a scene where a person who has been nothing but good to you and your family and you've been getting along very, very well, slaps your daughter really hard out of nowhere and is claiming she didn't do it, and you have no reason to assume she would have. Does a part of you not wonder if maybe she's telling the truth? Because
Yeah, this is
otherwise,
weird. This is weird because like there hasn't been strain in the relationship up to
no,
this point,
none at
right? Like
all.
she's literally giving your daughter $10,000 per month to
Yeah.
pay her tuition like
Hmm.
full ride to which is like she's done nothing but help you.
Yeah.
And then
So
she like yeah, and like even if you think she's having like kind of a psychotic break, his solution is to say like you need to pack your shit and get out of my house before I get back cuz I'm going to take my daughter for a drive to cool off.
like what? Force her to leave. Don't say you need to leave and then leave, as Daily
Yeah.
Dose points out. It's so bizarre. Like if she's having a psychotic break and something has gone completely wrong and she's unraveling mentally, don't leave her alone in your house.
Yeah, that's why would you expect she would go? Like
Yeah.
but
Why
she's like,
you would
and she
expect
chases them through the house afterward, and this is like something that kind of stuck with me a little bit when I was rewatching it. Is she goes, "No, no, no, you don't understand. This is what he did all while what he used to do while we were together," and I have no idea what that is supposed to mean because,
oh
like,
yeah.
thematically, I don't get it because
Wait. Before you get to the thematics, I just love the idea of the physical abuse he did to her was always invisible. like like he'd get mad at her for like loading the dishwasher wrong, and then he's like, "Ugh," and then he storms off, and then she's just sitting on the couch and gets slapped, and has no idea where it came from. And then 2 minutes later, he comes back like,
Oh, what
ah,
happened?
what
Oh, are
happened?
you
Are you okay?
okay? Oh, did you have another episode? You know how that tends to happen when you fuck up loading the dishwasher. Oh my god, that would have been fucking hilarious. But yeah, no, so she starts saying like this is what he used to do when we were together. And so like she's saying that in response to him slapping a teenager and blaming it on her.
Yeah,
Like
that
that
doesn't fit.
that doesn't make any sense. Like, and now I understand, I think that what it's going for is that he used to do these things that he would then blame on you to make other people think you were crazy. I guess, is that what he, like, maybe what she's
What we're going for broadly is the like, oh, that's what he used to do to control me, to make me feel like I'm the crazy one.
right.
Broadly, but this is the wrong place to drop that line.
Well, yeah, and nobody seems to have known that anything was wrong. None of, like, her sister didn't even, like, who she trusted to pick her up on the road in the middle of the night, didn't even know anything was wrong in the first
No.
place. So, like, what is she talking about here?
Uh, uh, he used to slap her while invisible,
I
and
guess that's it.
she's just
Yeah.
learning that that's what happened there. So
Like,
anyway,
yeah. And she was only one crazy email from her cutting you out of her life forever. So, you know,
yeah.
like, I don't know, man. This, like,
So okay, let's get back to the black dad's response to all this and how much it makes no sense, because I think it's worth really driving that point home. He thinks there's no credibility to the idea that he's found a way to be invisible, right? And sure, that's reasonable enough. She thinks this person who's been nothing but nice to your family has randomly just hit your child for no reason and is denying she did it. So she must be having some sort of psychotic break. You would either call for backup or you would take her away. You wouldn't take your daughter away.
yeah.
You wouldn't take your
Tell
daughter
your
with you to
daughter, who
cool
is
off.
old enough to be in the house by herself. Like,
Yes.
yeah. Although,
I'm gonna
like,
go take her down to the station.
yeah.
You stay here. I'll come back. Or call the cops. Call your buddies. You don't need to you know what I mean?
Do you
Like
not have
if
handcuffs, my dude? Like,
well, there's that, but like if you want to call the cops without like while being discreet about it, like you're a cop, you can call another officer to come by. You know what I mean? Like without making it like this big thing, without calling it in. You know what I mean? You could do something like that if you're trying to be discreet about it, because you think like, or if you think she needs to be institutionalized at least overnight or something until we figure out what's happening. Whatever the case is, don't just leave her alone in your house.
yeah.
Because
But
clearly
if,
you must think something is wrong with her for any of this to make sense. She just snapped and hit your kid for no reason.
yeah,
What
that's
you are
crazy
not
behavior.
reacting appropriately.
Yeah. But, well, he's reacting appropriately for the plot because the next few scenes are Elizabeth Moss taking a pound of coffee, a pound of ground coffee, and spilling it all over the floor because she's convinced that her invisible ex is, walking around watching her, and
Why don't
hiding,
you do
like,
flour or something like that? Something that shows up a little better.
yeah, like powdered sugar.
Anyway, whatever.
Flour comes in a
Whatever.
bigger bag than coffee. You could cover more ground. It's like, but
Yeah, whatever.
anyway,
Doesn't
she
matter.
sits down in the corner of the kitchen with a knife, and then this is where she has that moment where she asks, why me? I was just a suburban girl who stumbled into your life at a party. You know, like, I'm just your average woman. Why must you torture me? I've never done anything wrong in my life
You
but
can
heed
have
my
any
nature.
Oh, don't get me started. Well, you could have any woman you wanted, she says. That's the sad reality, right? And that's what money and power buy you, people. Like, ugh. No. 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 Are you saying that you were only with him because of the money? Because that's what that seems to imply. That he bought you? Is that what happened? Or were you attracted to him for like other reasons, the same way
His
anyone else
six
would be
pack, maybe.
attracted to him?
And then
Yeah,
that's
and
probably,
that he's successful, like
yeah.
that's what attracts people to him. He's not literally buying girlfriends, unless you're claiming that you were bought, in which case that says quite a lot about you, actually. I'm just a suburban girl who stumbled into your life one night at a party. Can't you just forget I ever existed? There's nothing left for you to take. You've already taken it all. Like, oh God, we're not. This is a movie about like a very abusive, controlling person, but it doesn't understand them or like how they actually act, and you know what I mean? Like none of this is real. It's all
Yeah.
just surface level tripe.
Yeah, with the fire extinguisher, by the way, that Georges is bringing up, like that could have come back as like a Chekhov's fire
Ah,
extinguisher at this
there
moment.
you go. That would be like setup and payoff, you know, when
Yeah.
movies do that sometimes.
But anyway, so she has this moment, and then she decides, like, this is really where like things start to like.
I'm sorry because Trayvon Washington said something very funny. He says maybe she was trying to say something so stupid he would be forced to scoff and reveal himself. If that was the strategy, that would be pretty funny. Like if
that would be
she's like,
quite.
"I was just a suburban girl. You just why you want to control me?" And he's like, "Ugh, as if." And then he's like, "Ah, I knew you were there."
Ha! Got
Anyway,
him! Gotcha, bitch.
so now we're escalating
Yeah, we're
things.
escalating things a little bit because she says this. She doesn't get a response, right? So what does she do, Jamie? She crawls over to the phone and decides to dial his cell phone number.
Why?
I don't know why that is your logical next step and why
I
you
mean,
might
like,
think that would work because surely, this man who faked his own death, who has an urn full of a hobo's ashes, probably, sitting on his brother's office shelf, would have shut his phone off.
well, okay, I'm
Right?
gonna stop. Maybe I'm gonna probably. Here's okay, because if he's trying to fake his own death, his phone would either be dead or off it by this point for sure, right? It wouldn't still be on even if he didn't answer it. But she's hoping that she can call him and maybe like he'll answer and explain why he's doing this to her or something, which he would never do. From this point in the movie, there's no reason to think that he wants her back. He just wants to make her life miserable. Everything he's doing is to make her life miserable for leaving him. There's nothing about trying to coax her back, really.
Yeah.
Like, because he's played his hand such that she knows he's the one doing this to her. So this isn't going to convince her to come back. So all he's trying to do is make her suffer at this point. Right? So like why would he answer the phone when she calls?
It would have been really funny if the answering machine picked up and it was just like, sorry, I can't come to the phone right now. I killed myself because my bitch ex left me. Like, that would have been really funny. But instead,
That
what
would be really
happens
funny.
is it starts buzzing upstairs
In
in
the
the
attic.
house, in the attic of the house.
Mm-hmm. So not only was it on, which it probably shouldn't be on for the sake of like convincingly making everyone think you're dead, especially with how much time has passed. Not only should it not be on, you left it on vibrate. So hypothetically, if she called him while he was in the room earlier, would it have just gone off in his pocket?
Yeah,
Like,
that theoretically. Now, I originally was like, oh my god, like, did he forget to turn his phone off? Like, that's this brilliant guy who invented an invisible suit forgot to turn his phone off while he was like squatting in the attic of this guy's house, right? And
yeah,
but then she climbs up to the attic to investigate, which is really stupid. This is not
it
something that
is.
you should be doing. Like, he's invisible. You
Call the
can't see
cops.
him. Call the cops. Yeah.
If you think he's up in the attic, then he's essentially trapped there. Call the cops.
Yeah, well, and like, if the phone is there, right? Like, that's why would it be there? You didn't.
Evidence.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
evidence. But she
And that's
climbs up
evidence
into
you
the
can it's evidence you can show to people to be like something weird is going on here.
yeah, well, like, and even
Because
if it won't go to like actual
that
like
phone has
cops or
pictures of
anything,
her that was taken in the middle of the night.
yeah, you can show that phone to your cop friend who lives in the house.
At least he'll believe you, even if it's not proof, right?
Yeah. So, but she climbs up there to investigate. She finds her portfolio. She finds, a whole bunch of stuff, evidence that he's been squatting up there. And then he texts her, surprise. And he's not there. He's not right behind her when he texts her this or anything like that. I don't know where the text comes from, honestly, like, because she has his phone. But she turns around. There's still nobody there.
He has another phone.
Yes. And so then she, like, She goes back to the attic, like the door to the attic, and the ladder is there, and she just grabs a can of paint and splashes it, and oh my god, it
He's right
splashes all over
there.
him. He's right there.
He's his like dimpled golf ball looking suit in paint.
Yeah.
So yes, obviously it was part of the plan for him to leave the phone up there for her to find, just so he could go boo. Gotcha.
Gotcha, bitch.
What was he planning to do if she didn't throw the paint on him? Because that the getting paint thrown on him is a wrench in the plan. He wants to lure her up into the attic. But first of all, I mean, why? Why? What's he trying to do?
Well, not kill her. He doesn't want to do that.
No, he doesn't want to kill her. We'll learn that he's just tormenting her. Is this just so he could go? Okay, because clearly he started climbing up the ladder after her. He didn't just like lure her up into the attic and then go away and just get ready for whatever his next prank is. First of all, he did this all like he walked up the ladder silently too as well. It's just the movie's full of this crap because she throws paint on him, and then she freaks out. When she looks back down, he's gone. There is no trail of paint.
There's a
leading to
little
wherever he
trail of
went.
paint. It's like it stops at the door to the kitchen, and then she
Yes.
gets over to the sink, and he's washed the paint off of his suit. It was on his face. It was on the top of his head. No, he fucking didn't.
Yeah. But he's managed to go back to being fully invisible like almost immediately, which is really dumb. But what was he climbing up into the attic to do? Is what I would like to know.
No idea.
Anyway, so wrenching his plan only for a minute because he gets all of that paint.
Yeah, paint, which is this is like because the reason the paint is here, we didn't mention this, right? Is that the cop friend is repainting his house.
Sure. Yeah.
This is not like the kind of paint that just washes off in the sink.
Yeah.
This shit sticks.
And it's on a bunch of like high-tech camera equipment.
Yeah.
Like you would
high-tech camera equipment that like later on in the water, right? Doesn't it like have a problem? Like it shows.
I think so. I'm pretty sure it's the water. Yeah. Starts to break, starts to malfunction. So yeah, the paint does nothing to it. Great. So that's cool. And anyway, now she's wandering through the house and she's grabbing a knife. And at one point, oh no, he picks her up by the neck and knocks the knife out of her hand, and then is like strangling her on the ground because I guess he wants to kill her now. And he's silent still. He's not saying anything at this point. He just wants to
kill her. She's grunting. He's not. That's
yeah. And so then she like manages to hit him with something. I don't remember what. Something that she grabs.
It's like a frying pan or some shit. Like
she runs away out of the house, and then that scene is over.
She runs away out of the house, calls an Uber, and gets like because she has her phone. You know,
Yes.
She doesn't. Now, this is something that my girlfriend pointed out when we were watching it. She could have recorded some of this shit at any time. She has her phone in her pocket. Like she could have tried to like.
Yeah. She could have. It would have been difficult too because he might have stopped attacking her if she did. But yeah,
like she could have tried.
She could have tried. She could have tried if she was smart, but she's not. And so why did he try to strangle her to death at this point? Given we will learn he has impregnated her without her knowledge, and he wants her to come back and be with him again and raise a kid, and so he can be hyper controlling of her. Right? That's what he wants, and I believe she's already been impregnated at this point. Why?
Yeah, because she had blood work done at the hospital where they found the drugs in her system, and then the doctor says, "Well, there's something else that we really should talk about," and she just ignores that. You know?
Yeah, she zones out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that has already happened. She is pregnant at this point, and he wants her to have his baby and to come back with her. So why is he attacking her? Why is he doing any of this stuff if he wants her to come back with him? So here's the thing about like if you want her to come back to you, making like isolating her from her friends and family, sure. But like you wouldn't want to give away the fact that you're the one doing this all to her, because why would she want to go back with you at that point?
Yeah. Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, like he's already failed in that regard. She's convinced it's him. So like it's a losing game.
And then he gets paint thrown on him, and he decides, I'll just kill you until he can't kill her, and then he defaults back to, oh, well, then I guess I want you to be with me again. I
Yeah.
guess.
Well, yeah, and so she gets in an Uber to go to the house that they used to share together, right? And she acts like when she gets there, she acts really like scared, like he could be around any corner. But she knows where he was. He literally cannot be there yet. Like it's not possible.
Yeah. Yes. But she's in his house. She's looking for stuff, and then she finds an
Oh my god.
invisibility suit.
Oh my god. She finds an invisibility suit and she figures out how to turn it on and off, right? And this is, well, actually, first thing she finds when she gets to the house of the guy who the world is convinced committed suicide is the dog. Just hanging out in the empty house because nobody came by, right? Like, nobody came by and put the dog in a pound. Nobody like brought her the dog because, you know, she was the last one who lived there with it. Like, none of that happened, right? The dog's just living there. It totally fine, right?
Yeah, the dog would not be there.
But she goes to the basement and she finds the invisible suit and she figures out how to turn it on and off. And this is huge, right? Because in effect, the possession of this suit proves that she is not crazy, that he is doing this. She found it in the basement, right?
Yep.
And it's game changing for her. And as she's figuring out how this works, there's a noise upstairs. The dog notices some things here and he starts barking. So she needs to get the suit out of the house and get herself out of the house. Because, like, you know, this is a scary thing, right? He's back at his home base. This is weird, too, because, like, why would he be here right now? Why would he think that this is where she went? Did he go back to recharge his phone? I'm not really sure, because he's been based, like, squatting in the attic. So, like, what? Like, why would he? Whatever. She needs to get the suit out. So, if it were you, Jamie, and you had found an invisible suit and figured out how to turn it on and off, what would you do? Because I know what I would do. I'd put on the invisible suit and turn it on and walk out the front door.
Yeah.
But what does she do?
She just leaves it. And
she picks it up and she runs to the closet where her hidey hole was for her go bag when she was escaping earlier, and she stashes it there so that she can come back later and pick up the evidence?
Because she, at this point, would have no reason to think she wants to come back here. So why does she stash it there? I mean, that's going to be a quote-unquote payoff for later, but there's no reason for her at this point to think that she will have to come back here. So just take the suit with you. Good way of getting out of this situation would be to wear the suit.
It's literally built into the suit. Like, you can, and it makes you safer to put the suit on because now he can't see you. Like, he doesn't have the predator eyes where he can, like, read heat signatures or anything. He's just a guy in an invisible suit. You can just put that shit on and go.
Yeah. Yeah, you could have. You definitely could have.
It wasn't made to fit a woman. Yeah, she could have just done that, but she doesn't. She stashes it in the closet and then hides in the closet until he walks in and she can, like, tackle him and run away. And then he doesn't, like... This is where he starts to become, like, really fucking stupid, right? Because she's hiding in the closet, and he doesn't think, like, why was she in here? Because he doesn't chase her. She just gets away and goes to hang out with her sister. Like, she goes to call her sister and say, like, hey, I need you to, you know, come and meet me in a public place, right? Which is going to lead up to the stupidest scene in the movie. But she just runs out. He doesn't follow her. So he doesn't sit there and go, like, wait a minute. What was she doing in this closet? And start, like, looking around in his own closet. Like, the control freak doesn't realize that there's a place you can stash shit in the closet that he bought. Yeah. And he doesn't look for it at all. Like, really?
Yeah. I don't know. Does he even learn that his other invisibility suit is missing?
Nope, never. Because he would have asked, like, the other invisibility suit is just, like, gone now. It's like she was in the house. It was on its mannequin, and now it's gone. And then he is going to later on completely forget that fact and
Mm-hmm.
allow it to be his demise.
Yep. Because he's not a genius after all, I guess. So she leaves. She gets back to the Uber who was waiting for her, and then she goes out. It's nighttime now, so a lot of time has passed. But you might expect that she would have done more in this time, especially with the knowledge of the suit. Why didn't she take pictures of the suit?
You could have done that at least if you weren't going to wear it out. You could have
Yeah.
taken pictures and like recorded you turning it on and off.
Yeah, because it doesn't. It's not instant either. It goes bloop, so like it's pretty demonstrative proof of an invisibility suit.
Yeah.
So there's that.
But she decides that she's like, okay, wait, I've like this anecdotal evidence that I have now, or this physical evidence that I have now turned into a crazy story. I need
Mhm.
to tell my sister this right stat now. My sister, who, by the way, wants nothing to do with me because she believes I sent this crazy batshit schizo email, and we haven't
Yeah.
talked since.
Yeah.
So I'm going to call her and have her meet me in a public place. She says somewhere public where, nothing bad can happen. Which, again, he's invisible. He can do a lot. Like, you should be thinking in terms of, like, if he's invisible, what can he do, right?
Yeah.
He can go in public places. Like, the original Invisible Man is like, I can walk right into a bank and take a bunch of money, right? Without people noticing. I could, sneak up on somebody and strangle them and then change the train tracks and kill a bunch of people on a train, Like, he understands what not being visible, like the benefits that
Sure.
imparts. She seems not to, because she's like, oh, then meet me in public. That's not going to matter.
No, it's not going to matter.
That's not
at
going to
all.
matter. You can't see him. Nobody can see him. You're the only one who knows he's invisible.
So she goes to try and tell her sister. They're at a restaurant, and Hugh, do you want to talk about the waiter?
Yeah, I do, because so they meet at a restaurant. It's a very popular restaurant. It's at a very popular. It's like prime time, right? It's dinner time. Everything's going on. Like, people are like having a good
Crowded,
time.
noisy.
They're
Yep.
enjoying themselves. It's trendy. There's nice lights and everything. And the waiter keeps coming up to him and is just kind of doing what waiters do, right? A good waiter, anyway, at a trendy restaurant. He comes up. He's like, "Hey guys, I'm Taylor. I'll be taking care of you. Have you ever been here before? Have you ever been here before? Do you want any recommendations? Can I get you started with any drinks?" And they are acting so annoyed by the fact that he's doing his job, right? And like, the sister is being a total bitch about this. Total bitch. She's
Yeah,
like,
being
she's like,
very
yeah, we've been here.
standoffish.
We've been here multiple times. And he's like, okay, well, like, or no, she says,
This is the thing that
he goes, you know
annoys
how
me.
it works here? And she goes, yeah, I'm pretty sure we order food and then eat it.
It's so annoying because
It's
she's such a bitch about it. And what she could say is like, "Hey, we haven't had a chance to catch up in a while. We just want a chance to talk. If that's okay, if you could come back in like 10 minutes, maybe."
yeah,
You can just say that, and the waiter will be like, "Oh yeah, absolutely. That's
yeah,
that's
they
fine.
will.
It's a totally normal thing." But instead, you're being really sassy and backhanded about it in a way where
To a waiter who is doing what you should expect a waiter would do. Like,
yes,
you are meeting it, and like, Elizabeth Moss is kind of doing the same thing. Like, she's acting
yeah,
really annoyed that he's coming up and like interrupting their conversation. And it's
yeah.
like, no, you
Just say
asked
that.
her to meet you in a public. You could have gone anywhere. You didn't have to go to a restaurant where this is going to happen.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you should know this.
Pretty dumb. Pretty dumb. Bro, not just dumb, also rude.
Yes.
They're very rude, and I'm like, oh, am I supposed to like these people? Because I don't.
Okay, yeah, and
And
this is
and I
that
just
line that the funny line that Shane Gillis was talking about, where he says, like, she goes, you're so strong, Emily. You're like a cop," which, like, in a couple of they didn't realize that in a couple of years that one wouldn't have played out so well. But she immediately takes on the persona of a cop and starts talking about how she could totally kick the black guy's ass. So that's something. A little prescient.
so I don't remember how much of the conversation they get out before a floating knife appears.
It's really not much. She says, like, I need you to believe what I'm going to tell you, and for some reason that kind of gives her a change of heart. And then a floating knife appears and slits her sister's throat. And her
Oh wait,
hand.
okay, wait. We need to slow down because it's incredible. It's incredible how stupid this plays out. So there's imagine two people sitting across the table from each other at a restaurant. A knife appears in the air, and Elizabeth Moss sees it just in time to be like, "What?" And then the knife moves invisibly, slits her sister's throat. Okay, the knife has slit her throat. It is still over by her sister's neck. What is Elizabeth Moss' first gut instinct to do with her body is to raise one hand and open it. I'm not kidding. That's what she does instead of anything else. Instead of freaking out, instead of like reaching out towards her sister, she raises one hand and opens it. And then he puts the knife in her hand and she closes it and is just
Yep.
holding the knife. This all happens within an instant. So she is now holding the knife because she raised her hand for no reason and is now holding it and doesn't recoil from the like okay because if he grabbed her hand she would recoil from that, but she must have just put up her hand on her own and now she's holding the knife that and she's just in such shock apparently that she continues to just sit there and hold the knife until
And
someone
watches her sister bleeds out over the dinner table until somebody screams.
yeah, and then she looks over at the person who screams, still holding the knife, only to then look at the knife and go, "Oh my
Oh,
God, there's a knife in my hand. Oh my goodness!" And of course, naturally, people assume she killed the woman she was sitting across from. Why did any of that happen like that? Oh, it's Georges Rex. Obviously, the knife didn't appear out of nowhere. He grabbed it from the table, but the point is that like she just puts up her hand and grabs onto it and holds onto it for way longer than she should. All in this like it's so unbelievably contrived, man.
it's really bad. Yeah. It's
It's
really
so
bad.
it's so bad. It's so funny. It's so cringe. Everything about it. It's just like why? It's so cheap. Everything about it is so it's so hacky, dude. Lee Whannell, what are you doing? Why does she put her hand up like that and
This
then
movie
close
has a
it around the knife?
90 something percent on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, it's unbelievably high. Unbelievably high.
It's fucking ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
insane. And then she like she gets arrested and like dragged out of there and thrown into a psych ward and she's freaking out and she's doing a good job with what she's got, to be fair to her. But it's how we got here is so unfathomably stupid.
Here's the funny thing about that is that he doesn't need to put the knife in her hand for people to assume she did it because who else would have done it?
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I
it's the
mean?
same thing. It's like
It's a
literally
slap.
the same thing as the slap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, as far as pranks go, this one might be a little too much for me.
He might have taken it a little far.
Still pretty funny, all things considered, the way
Yeah.
he put it in her hand without her realizing it or objecting to it. Pretty funny. To frame her for murder like this. Maybe a little too far. Maybe a little on the mean side.
Okay, all right. Now you've taken the pranks a little too far. Now I think I'm on her team. This is the turning point.
This is the
Like
turning.
up until then it could have gone either way.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So now, of course, she has been framed for murder, and she gets taken to like, is it a hospital or
It's
like
like
a?
a psych ward base, like a hospital psych ward base, like
Yeah,
because she's
something like
raving.
that.
She sounds like a lunatic.
Yeah, she's
Like
like, no, you don't understand. It was my invisible ex-boyfriend. He's here in the room with us right now.
that could have been a much better title for this movie.
What?
Like My Invisible Ex-Boyfriend.
That's 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 a better descriptor of the movie.
Yeah.
That is exactly what the movie is.
Yeah.
And it communicates exactly the sort of like pulpy dreck that this movie is. Anyway, so she's in this hospital and she's like been left alone in this room. She's tied to the bed and like drugged or whatever. And then she's brought before an investigator and her friend, the cop. He would not be there.
No.
He should not. This is a conflict of interest. There's no.
There's
No.
no way they would let him investigate this.
They shouldn't
Like,
anyway.
yeah.
Of course it's not impossible, but they absolutely should. He should not be in this room right now. But She claims that her boyfriend's invisible and did this, and that I didn't actually slit her throat.
I for a second I really liked how the other cop was going about it though, because he's just like, so you're saying that whoever killed your sister is in this room right now? And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly what the cop would do, because he's just like, I just need a confession. This is a cut and dry case. Obviously she did it. She's crazy, right? I can close the books on this. But then he goes even further and goes, and it wasn't you. It was this invisible X, basically. It's like what he says. It's like, no, 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 no. You had it. She was about to say yes. You almost had it, dude. You could have closed the case. That's your quota for the month. Like, you're good.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The black friend doesn't believe her,
No.
as you might expect. And she's alone, and someone comes in to check on her, some sort of nurse, cop person. And then this is when we learn that you're pregnant.
Yeah. The doctor didn't tell you.
Yeah, no, he did tell you, you just zoned out. So now she's pregnant, and so obviously he's trying to control her and bring her back okay, we need to talk about this. Because he impregnated her because he wants to control her, and that was the whole point of like trapping her with him originally.
Yeah. Well, and we'll find out later, like just a little bit later, so I'm just gonna round it out here, because the ex's brother comes to visit her again and basically reveals he's in on the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And what he said, like, because she told somebody, she tells us earlier that she was taking birth control secretly because she knew he wanted a baby. She didn't want to get pregnant with his baby, so she was taking birth control secretly. And then by the time it ran out, she had to escape, and that's when this whole thing started, right?
Yep.
Now, the brother comes to her and will say, at this point, you think he didn't know about that? He replaced your birth control, essentially. Like, he took your birth control away and was replacing it with sugar pills that whole time. So she's been pregnant the whole time, basically.
Yes.
Like, this isn't like he fucked her invisibly and his like 5.5-inch dong was like floating around the black guy's house, like, or anything like that. No. She's been pregnant the whole time.
Yep.
And so he knew that. He was pretty sure of that.
So when he made it obvious that he was the one pranking her and like played his hand, so like ruining any chance of her wanting to get back with him because he wasn't subtle about it. She was pregnant then. Also, when he tried to strangle her to death, she was pregnant then. That seems to cut against his plan to get her to come back, because he's going to stop her from killing herself in a few scenes. So he doesn't want her dead because that's his child inside of her, and he wants to control her. So none of his motivations make any fucking sense whatsoever. I think we can say that pretty definitively.
Well, now we need a little bit of a twist on the plot because we're past the second act of the movie, essentially.
Yeah,
And
exactly. It's all just so obvious how this was constructed and put together. So, she's pregnant, and it's just like, well, first of all, I don't believe this guy would really be desperate to have a child. He just doesn't seem like that type. You know what I mean? Okay, so like
with her.
Well,
he could probably have a kid with anybody. Like, why does it have to be with her? It's not even about her, right? It's about like, oh no, I need to get you pregnant. But why? Like, why?
The movie's logic is that she's the one that wouldn't be controlled by him, and that really upset him. And it's like, if he wants, like, he would be doing this to several different people. Like, I don't understand why it's just her. It doesn't make any sense because it's so. Recently, I just watched the documentary HBO series called The Vow. Have you seen that?
No.
It's about the Nixium cult guy. You know anything about that?
No, I don't.
Keith Raniere, Allison Mack. Do you know? Okay, so it's a guy who started a cult out of a sort of self-help seminar company.
Oh, yeah. Okay, wait, I've heard a little bit about this. Yeah, sorry, I didn't put Nixium together because how weird it's spelled. Yeah. A bunch of celebrities got in on that show too.
Allison Mack, who was on like
she was on she was in the Scotty Doesn't Know. Yeah,
she was in Smallville.
She was in Scotty Doesn't Know. Yeah. Eurotrip. She was the Fiona, the girl that Matt Damon's singing about. Yeah.
So she was in a bunch of stuff. She got involved in this program. Eventually, got
Oh no.
involved with actual sex trafficking and branding of women on behalf of Keith Raniere, the head of this cult. So she's in prison too, I believe. Um,
Oh,
yeah,
I'm
it's
thinking
a
of
great.
Kristen Kruick. Sorry, not Allison Mack. Yeah, but it same. Yeah,
Anyway,
same thing.
anyway, um, the head of this cult is a guy named Keith Raniere, and this is an actual. He's got like the classic, what they call the dark tetrad, like personality traits. He's Machiavellian. He's an actual psychopath. He's oh god, what are the other ones? He's sadistic, manipulative. He's got all of them, right? He's like classically evil person
Yeah.
essentially, and he was very abusive and controlling of the women in his life, and he built up this whole like mental infrastructure such that people would eventually become something like slaves for him. Very sophisticated, very clever in the way he went about it. Um, a real shitty guy, to say the very very least. But like for example, he had all these women that thought they were exclusively in a relationship with him, but he was fucking around, okay? Obviously. And then he's promising that he's going to give them babies because they want to have children, and he's like no, like he's like withholding, like maybe you have some stuff to work through in your life before we can allow that. Like if like they find out that he's sleeping with someone else, they get upset about it. That's obviously a problem. They're being controlling. That's something they need to work through, and maybe I'll withhold the idea of ever giving you a child unless you work through that stuff and learn to not be jealous. So he's like extremely like high level manipulative person, that, and he's a narcissist and all that sort of stuff. And he would like promise, he was with like a bunch of different women all at once, and he'd like promise them children and never actually give them any, right? Because he doesn't actually want that. Now in this movie, like he seems to want her and only her, and to have a child with her, like more than anything in the entire world, except for when he's trying to kill her for no reason. And it's just like, I don't think this movie really understands those kind of people. You know what I mean?
No,
I don't think this
not even a
movie
little bit.
understands, not that he needs to be exactly like Keith Raniere, but like that's what those people are like. You know what I mean? Like narcissists usually only really want children insofar as they can like use them, or like that benefits them in some way. But like why, okay, like why is he obsessed with her and only her? Why is this billionaire tech CEO guy just obsessed with controlling her? Because everything he's doing is so time consuming that he can't be doing this to a whole bunch of people at once. You know what I mean? Like what is, this just doesn't make any sense, Hugh. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Nope.
And his own motivations are contradictory, so they're not even consistently nonsense. They're inconsistently nonsense as well.
Which is the worst part about it.
Oh, Exhumed Legume says, I've heard of the dark triad of traits, but tetrad, it's getting out of hand. Now there's four of them. Yeah, they added sadism to it. Because before, I believe it was just Machiavellianism, um, psychopathy, and narcissism. But then they added sadism, apparently. Anyway, The Vow is a really good documentary series
Okay.
about an actual
An,
evil
like an
person.
actual evil person who was manipulative and might have built an
like
invisible suit. If he could have.
if he
to
could have,
torment-
he would have.
He could have, he would have.
Yeah.
Yes. And
Anyway.
it probably would have made more sense.
So anyway, we find out that he wants a baby with her, and so then we get the meeting with the brother of the ex, who's the lawyer, and he reveals, I've been in on this the whole time, and oh, he knew that you were not taking birth control, so he switched it up on you. Haha, he got you. He showed you. He wants you to come back with him and be his wife and raise their child. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. No,
No.
no. So then she's in her cell at night, and she took a pen, like a fountain pen that the lawyer brother had, and she stashes it above the doorway so she can use it later. And what is she using it for? Well, she's like, I know what'll get you to prove that you're in here in this room with me right now. If I go to kill myself. And so she takes the fountain pen and starts digging into her arm, like going up, not side to side, like doing the actual
thing. Yeah, she's actually gonna do. I'm actually gonna do it this time. I swear to God.
And the reason, obviously, that's significant is that that's much harder to heal.
Yes.
And she gets reasonably far in the slitting her wrist long ways process before he grabs her to be like, I am here in the room with you. And she's like, I knew you were here, or like, I knew that would work, or whatever.
You heard it
And
here
then,
first, ladies. Cutting yourself is the answer.
oh God, please don't. And so there's a couple things that are funny about this. Funny in a not funny sense is that like she literally just found out she was pregnant. And so she's like, I know what I'll do. I'll start to kill myself. And that'll get him. What if he wasn't in the room? What if he was like
Yeah,
cooking up
what
some
if he
other
yeah,
scheme?
what if he was off planning a different prank to fuck with her at the time instead of just sitting there in the corner silently staring at her as she pisses herself
So
in
if he
his
wasn't in the
cell.
room and if he was busy doing something else to get at her, she would have just killed herself and died, probably. First of all, and that's one aspect of this. Aspect of number two is that she gets far enough that she should probably just bleed out if she doesn't get medical attention, which she does not, and it just disappears as a problem from the rest of the movie. Like that she started to slit her wrist long ways and would probably bleed out from that, as you know, that's why people do it, to kill themselves. Um, it's just a non-issue for the rest of the movie. That's really dumb. She doesn't faint from the pain. She doesn't faint from the blood loss or anything. She's fine.
He was off taking shit.
But yeah, what if he was literally just going to take a poop somewhere? So,
He comes back and she's just dead. He's like, "Oh, fuck.
oh fuck. I guess
Oh, shit. Oh,
I'll have to
God."
find
You know,
another one.
Charlize Theron's been blowing up my phone. I guess I could probably go.
Just kidding. I'm not dead. So there's another thing that's funny about all this. Let's say she agrees to get back with him. How does he unfake his death?
Well, how does he unfake his death? Because he's just back by the end of the movie. He's just there.
Well, I don't know if everyone knows he's back yet.
Yeah, but wait, what's his end game? Like,
Yeah,
how's he
but
gonna do this? Like,
that's a good question.
he's faked crime scene photos of himself dead.
Yeah, that which shouldn't have even worked, but
Like,
setting
this is
aside
why
that,
you do the thing that we were mentioning earlier, where you disappeared during a freak rich people sports accident,
yes,
and you're presumed dead. So that way, when you come back, it's like, oh, look at that, he survived somehow. Like, he washed up on shore. Like, there is you have no out in this
No.
situation.
Nope. Georgius Rex makes a great point. If he was in the room and like, because she gets locked in there at night, if he managed to get in there before the door was closed, did he not see her put the pen up there?
Yeah, well,
Apparently not.
yeah, apparently not.
No, but so he has no end game here at all. Like, how does he force her to get back with it? Like, does he start over under a new name somewhere else? Like, no, he wouldn't do that. He's like a narcissist and he's built this whole like wealthy empire sort of thing. So like, how does he unfake his death? I think the movie's logic, unironically, is he's so rich he could just get away with it.
But no, that's half of what's filling in plot holes in the background of
Yes,
this. Is like, oh, he's
absolutely.
rich.
Yes. Okay. So the cut to her wrist, as far as she got, should have probably caused her to bleed out because she doesn't get any medical attention. There's the fact that she was willing to kill herself once she just learned she was pregnant. There's that. There's the fact that there is no out for him at the end of this where they get back together. So there's no way this works. So why is he stopping her from killing herself? Like, what is his goal even here? There's the fact that he should have noticed that she stashed a pen above the door frame in order to prevent this. Like, he could have prevented, if he's in the room, he could have prevented this before she got that far, but he doesn't for no particular reason. Man, there's a lot. There's a lot stacked on top of that. So, she starts struggling with him. They're like fighting back and forth. Water from the shower, like he's grabbing her to prevent her from cutting her wrist any further. She turns the water on in the shower, and the water causes his suit to short circuit sometimes. And they play real fast and loose with exactly when his suit glitches out. But the water causes it to short circuit sometimes and cause him to appear visible in his like 1,000 camera eyes dimple suit form thing. And then they start fighting until one of the guards hears all the ruckus and he comes in, he opens the door, and she's like, "No, there's an invisible man in the room." And then the invisible man attacks the guard and dispenses with him, and then other guards show up, and then we get basically a sort of like wacky camera going whoa all over the place as he easily dispenses with a bunch of guards. His camera suit is like flicking in and out very, very conveniently for the sake of the plot. Like when a cop would obviously have time to see him and get a shot off, he's just invisible for a while until he glitches when they're not looking, stuff like that. Anyway, he kills a bunch of these guards, just straight up murders them, shoots them in the head, shoots them in, like, all that sort of stuff. Leaves a trail of blood, and then he leaves. Now, she has to run because otherwise it'll look like she killed all of them, I guess. And so she grabs a gun and she runs outside, and she's trying to track down the invisible boy. And she's out there in the street with a gun, trying to shoot at him. And then eventually he appears right in front of her and he grabs her by the neck.
Ah!
Ah.
Oh my god.
And
it's a lot less scary when he's not naked.
It's a lot less fun when he's not naked, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I kind of breezed through the action scene. I don't know if you had anything specific other than it's
Nope.
pretty lame.
I breezed through the entire end of this movie so that I could get to watching the original one earlier this morning.
Fair enough. You had seen this when it came out, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, around when it came out, yeah. So, and then he's interrupted from killing her, or like, he has her. Obviously, he's not going to kill her. He just stopped her from killing herself. And then there's like a police officer who comes by and he shoots him. And then there's a car that drives like by, and somehow like, okay, so the invisible boy gets into a car and drives off, and then she stops another car who's coming by. She like Grand Theft Autos this guy out of the car and steals his car and starts driving after the invisible man. And of course that leads them back, because at some point in here he has spoken aloud, which is something he doesn't do much in the movie, but he says, "Well, if you don't want to be with me, I'm going to kill all the people you know and love." And so that's why she knows that her the black daughter and father are in danger. I need to go protect them. So she drives after the invisible man, who is already here, and he is beating the shit out of the black dad. He's invisible, and he's just beating him to a pulp.
This is another thing that the movie kind of really, I don't even want to say plays fast and loose with, right? Is like, everybody, as soon as they get got by him, is practically incapacitated, except for Elizabeth Moss, who like manages to wrestle him off earlier on, right? Like, this guy feels himself getting punched, and like, I don't believe, looking at him, that he doesn't know how to fight, right? Like, he looks like he could beat somebody up.
Oh yeah. He's a big dude. He's strong. He's a police officer. He's like a beat cop. So like
if you like, and now granted, this guy punched through a car window, but like, you would think that he gets hit a couple times and all of his this is a little bit like that, the idea of bringing a gun back in time, right? It's like, after a couple of free hits, like, somebody's gonna figure out where it's coming from and kind of piece together what's going on and be able to defend themselves. Like, it's not the checkmate that you think it is, you know? Like, but this movie treats it like they're just incapacitated because he just he can just overpower them completely, you know? That's one of the things that the original book did, is like, eventually they all get together and they grab him and they beat him up. Like, they kind of whoop his ass a little bit because he's just invisible.
He's not superhuman. He doesn't have the super soldier serum. Anyway, so he's beating the crap out of the dad. Like, obviously the dad is at a disadvantage because he can't see him, but he is glitching in and out. So he like puts up something of a fight, but then he's just getting the shit kicked out of him. Oh, but then Elizabeth Moss shows up and she shoots him and kills him, takes off the mask, and oh my god, it's not the evil X. It's his brother, the lawyer.
Whoa.
Then, hold on, one thing before we talk about it. Then we see police arrive. I don't even know where they are, somewhere at his house. And in some sort of basement compartment, we find the actual evil X faking like he's being held captive by the brother and he's been hiding. So like, I guess that was his plan, to be like, just kidding.
Just kidding. I went along with this because my brother, the lawyer, is an evil guy.
Oh, that's the next big twist. Now, there's a lot to talk about here. So, what we're meant to assume is that the brother has been in on this as well. Obviously, from the last conversation we had with the brother, we know that he takes the evil X's side, at least, right?
Yeah.
He's in on this plan, and so at some point he convinced his brother to put on the invisibility suit, right? He
Yes.
convinced him to put on the invisibility suit, but not just that. Um, Okay, so what point does the switch happen is the first question. It doesn't really ultimately matter for the big criticism I have of it, but I'm just kind of curious. When does the switch happen?
That I don't think there's any real way to
No.
know, you know?
Yeah, well, okay, it couldn't have been him at the hospital in the shower because there's not enough time for him to go.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, everything that we just described from like stopping her from killing herself in the shower to beating the black guy nearly to death, that's all the brother. How does he convince the brother to murder a bunch of people for him?
Hey, buddy, want to kill some blacks?
Well, he kills. Hold on, I think I can count it. One, two, three, at least four prison guards at this psych ward hospital prison thing.
Oh,
He
that's all
kills
the
four.
brother?
It has to be the brother. There's not enough time to make the
For him
switch
to,
otherwise.
yeah, for him to like run back and make the switch. Yeah, yeah. Oh my god. Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah. How does he convince his brother to do that in any?
Even if actually no, maybe it's not the brother because he speaks to her at the ambulance. Remember, at some point he says like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna kill the people you know and love." So the switch must have happened after that. Okay, so it's not that problem; it's a different problem. So the evil X is the one that kills all the security guards at the thing and is outside by the ambulance, and then takes an ambulance and drives away. But then the person who's actually at the house when Elizabeth Moss shows up is the other brother. At some point, they must have switched. Now, remember, they only have one suit between them,
Yeah, because the
presumably.
other one is hidden. So
Yeah,
unless they found it, they didn't.
they didn't find it. We know that they
Yeah,
didn't
we
find
know
it.
they didn't find it. We'll
They
find
only have
out
one.
they
So at
didn't
some
find it.
point, so Elizabeth Moss is chasing him in a car, and at some point he met up with the brother, switched suits, and said, "Hey, brother, now go almost beat this random black cop to death." So he
He
comes
was like,
close.
"You had me at black."
He comes close to killing him. So the problem stands. It's not as many people, but he almost kills this guy. So like, why is he willing to kill
Why is he
someone?
willing to kill a cop for his
What does
brother?
he get
Like,
out of this?
yeah, that's a great question.
Is there three invisible suits? I don't
No, they
think
would have
there
had to
is.
tag in. So like he basically has to like rapidly change into his brother's sweaty invisible suit that he just beat
Yeah,
up and killed a bunch of prison guards in.
he would be pretty sweaty for
He's
sure.
got to be. Like he's
Okay,
carrying cameras around on him
so
like and he's
does he
naked in
have an?
that thing, you know he is. He's not. He's
Okay,
going commando.
okay, here's the question:
It
Does he have
reeks
like
of
more
balls.
than? Does he have more than two suits? I think that there's no reason to assume he does because there's the one that's been stashed away in secret by Elizabeth Moss. So he lost access to that one. That was the one that was up in the lab essentially.
Yeah.
And then there's the one he's wearing at the time. There are no other ones in that room and from here on out once they once the police catch him thinking he was a hostage, and from when they dispense with the guy wearing the suit that they shoot, we don't see him in the suit ever again. You know what I mean? So I think it's and then he agrees to meet with her in person at his house, which I think speaks to the fact that he doesn't have a suit anymore, or else why would he do
Yeah,
that?
yeah. There's
So I don't think he has more than one suit. So he must have
and
done a
like so
switcheroo.
the plan was to like did he come up with this at the beginning or is this like an on the fly calling an audible situation where he was just like, okay, so how I'm gonna make my comeback, right, is we're gonna frame you for kidnapping me. Like, did he do that? Did he, was the brother in on that? You would have to assume he probably wasn't, because the brother would be like, why would I go along with that? Like,
Yeah, I think you're right.
so like,
Oh wait, hold really quick. Daily Dose points out that this suit that the brother was in attacking the black guy wasn't damaged and it wasn't glitching out. If that's true, then there must have been a third suit that we just never really hear about ever
Yeah, or
again.
C. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, so okay, so the big question is with the brother. He must not have been on the plan to frame him for kidnapping him. There's just no way he would agree to that. But why does he agree to go kill this guy for him? What is he getting out of
Well,
this?
I think the answer is that he's a racist, and that that's really all. It's really all you can do. Is like, yeah, no, go for it, man. Ah, yeah, you'll
It
get
would be
away with it.
really help. It would be really helpful for me if you killed this guy.
It's
But here's
time
the
for you
thing.
to put that finally to some good use.
Yeah, I'm not clear on his motivations there. And then he gets killed in the process, and so that suit is damaged, right? And so then the police are like, "Oh, he was held captive by his brother this whole time." And Elizabeth Moss is like, "No, he fucking wasn't." She doesn't do a great job of arguing the point. She could have been like, "No, the voice that was speaking to me at the hospital, the one who did all that, that was him. I recognize his voice." You know what I mean? She doesn't say that. She just goes, "No, I'm telling you it was him." Which,
She does
like
that a lot.
you could argue your case better,
Yeah.
perhaps. So, and then the next plan is I'm going to go meet with him at his house. But the backup is that I have the cop with me and I'm wearing a wire and I'm going to get him to confess. Ostensibly, that's the plan. I'm going to get him to confess that he really did it. And so she goes to the house, which is not especially, it's risky, we'll say that. She goes to his house and then he like makes this nice dinner for her and he's like trying to pretend like he didn't do any of this, right? Because now his plan is like, I want you to get back with me, so of course I'm never going to admit that I did any of those things, not least because you could be wearing a wire, but also because I want you to think you're crazy and I don't want you to think I actually killed all those people and did all that stuff to you. But the problem is he already played his hand too aggressively. Like there's no way this works.
No.
Like no one is so gullible that this actually works on them. You know what I mean? You have not
He
been
might as well
subtle.
just be like, you made that all up. You dreamed all of that. Nobody has an invisible suit. Like he could have just gone for the Hail Mary on that, you know?
Yeah,
Like
the way he plays it doesn't make a lot of sense. But then, so he never checks her for a wire. Stupid move number one.
being
Stupid
very
move.
controlling, like you would think,
Yeah.
like, and you would think that he would have every excuse because he could just be like, well, my own brother tied me up and hid me in the basement, and I was shitting in a bucket for a month. You'll have to forgive me for being a little paranoid, and like all of a
Yeah.
sudden, like everybody who's kind of like listening in, who is already not inclined to believe her story, kind of just goes like,
Mhm.
I mean, he's got a
Yeah.
point,
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, she agrees to go to his house alone with backup, but like way far away.
Yeah.
So like
On the
can't
outside of
help
like
him
a
at
wall.
all.
Like he has a wall. This is a
Yeah.
complex, not just a house.
Yes.
Like
Yes, the compound. So, stupid idea number one was not check her for a wire. That's an obviously dumb move, and that makes no sense that he makes it.
stupid
Dumb
idea
move
number
number
2 is not recognizing that you're second and being so controlling that you don't recognize that your inventory of invisible suits is -1 at the moment.
yeah. And then stupid thing number three is that like at one point he's like trying to convince her that I never did any of that stuff, and then she starts crying or whatever, and she's like, I just need a minute, and then runs off to the bathroom, and then like out of his sight. And he doesn't like pull up an iPad that's like checking security cameras or anything. He just sits there and just like la 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 la. I'm sure whatever she's doing in the bathroom is totally normal and I have nothing to worry about. La 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 la. Oh my god, my throat just got slit by an
Whoops.
invisible force. Whoops. Oh no. And then he's bleeding out, and then the guy listening in is like, oh my god, what's going on in there? She takes the suit off or turns it off, and then and she just sits down and is like, surprise, like that's her I got you. You got your comeuppance moment, girl boss moment. And he just is lying on the ground like bleeding out. And then she leaves and she runs into the cop friend, who is fine, by the way. She's also fine. Remember, she had her hand cut open. She's fine.
Yep.
She's fine.
She's fine.
She doesn't even have a bandage on it, if I remember correctly.
Nope.
Oh boy.
Nope, she's totally fine. And he's dead, and the cop is just kind of like, I don't know what you did in there.
But I think he killed himself, definitely. Yeah,
Of
so
course.
ostensibly they were there to get a confession out of him, but she's like, I never really expected him to confess. And so she just kills him, and he looks the other way, essentially, because I guess he believes her now. He hasn't ever up until this point. Like even he doesn't believe that there's someone invisible at all this entire time. And then he thinks it's the brother, and then he agrees to come here on the pretense that they're going to record a confession of him admitting, actually it wasn't the brother, it was me. He doesn't get a confession and then is totally fine with letting her kill him. Why?
Great question.
Either his performance in that scene was enough to convince you maybe he like that, or not maybe, that he did actually do it and was involved, or it wasn't. And if it wasn't, then why are you okay with letting her kill him? This guy in his mind, the black friend cop, in his mind, this guy was the victim of the same person that they've all been victimized by.
Yeah.
And he has no reason to doubt that. He is fully convinced, but he's willing to go along that like maybe she can get a confession out of him. And then when she doesn't and kills him instead, he's totally fine with it. Because I guess he's just a good supportive friend because he
believes all women.
Yeah, exactly. It's so bad. It's so bad. Like every character at some point in the studio and at some point in the movie is monumentally stupid and or a bad person. Everyone has that moment. There is no like it's just so poorly written. Just terrible, dude.
Yeah. And she just walks off. That's the end of the movie. She just walks away.
Yeah. She walks away. She like walks dead center in the middle of the frame, looking slightly off camera.
She sets it up so that it looks on the camera like he killed himself, right?
Yes.
And it's just so she has no reason
very conveniently placed cameras.
Yeah. She has no reason to just like to walk away and not talk to the cops. She can just be like, It's
even worse than that, Hugh. That makes it look worse.
Yeah.
If she flees the scene, that makes it look more suspicious, not less, because she is on camera as being here. What she should capture herself on camera doing is coming back and finding him dead and freaking out.
Yeah.
Otherwise, when they come to investigate this, they're gonna be like, "Oh my God, he killed himself. You were there. You left the room. He killed himself."
Well, and like he killed himself.
Didn't appear on camera.
You know, his brother had an invisible suit.
And then you left without ever discovering his body?
Yeah.
What happened? Why did you leave? She would be in so much fucking trouble.
Yeah, like they're like, well, his brother had a suit that made him invisible. Is it really that difficult to believe there could be two? There were two mannequins in the basement. I mean, like, you know, Elizabeth, this is not looking good for you.
This looks so bad for her. Like, okay, if you invited me over to a dinner party, and then I left to go to the bathroom, and then you killed yourself on camera, and then somehow off camera, I just left and like left the party, like right then, you'd be like, the police would be like, what the fuck? Why did you leave right then?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
There's no way. There is no good excuse for this at all. You're fucked.
Well, and even worse too is that like the invisible suit has been revealed at this point, right?
Yeah.
And like he on the camera where it looks like he's killing himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
He looks like he's resisting.
Yes.
It doesn't look natural. And so obviously the first thought they're going to have is like, oh, somebody else put on a different invisible suit and killed him. And you're the one who just left the room.
Yep. She's fucked.
That's even like it would look bad even if the invisible suit was a non-factor, but it's not. It's kind of a huge deal.
Yes.
She's fucked. Yeah, she's fucked.
And I want to rewind to talk about something. Did I even mention this? That like, why does he frame her for her sister's murder if she wants him to come back with him? I feel like I didn't even mention that. That's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Remember when he sets her up for having killed her sister in a way that like no one it would never be like no one would ever believe anything else. And then he's like, "Oh, but the plan is that you get back with me." Like, no, she's on the hook for that. And so even once we find that someone in an invisibility suit was attacking her friend, and then they shot him in the process, how do you have any proof that you didn't kill your sister?
I
You know what I
mean,
mean? Like,
yeah, you don't.
how is she just out of prison at this point? For this finale to even make sense, how was she let out of prison? Yeah, to the male council of Karens, who correctly points out that this is Contrivance the movie.
Yes.
That's all this is. It's wall to wall contrivances.
Yeah, I mean, there's not. That's it. That's the movie.
Wait, did she call the cops? Who called the cops?
I don't. All I remember her is her walking off and like kind of giving the Elizabeth Moss look to the camera.
Did he call the cops or did she call the cops?
I thought he called back up, but I could be wrong. But
Um, Either way, this looks horrible for her.
yes.
But I don't remember exactly. So yeah, and that's the end of the movie.
Yeah. Evan
I
Seeger
think
points out Gone Girl did a really good job of staging
yes.
CCTV footage. You know, like having that as a major plot point.
Mm-hmm.
They don't really try that here.
I don't think it's much of an exaggeration to say nothing about this movie makes sense. The movie is terrible.
Yeah,
It's
I
horribly written. It's incredibly, incredibly overrated. It sucks.
yes.
It's a poopy movie. It's bad. No good.
Terrible. No good, terrible, very bad movie.
So yeah, in comparison, the 1930s Invisible Man is a fucking masterpiece. Just by comparison.
Yeah, like
Um,
it already it's already blown it out of the water.
oh yeah.
There's no coming back from
And it's
this.
it's funny because the 1930s Invisible Man is kind of stupid, but it's way more fun and it's just way better in every way that matters
Yeah.
than this. It's like it's by no means a masterpiece, but it's like compared to this, it's like this. It feels like not even the same art form. Like is this storytelling? I'm not convinced it is. No, it's just so bad. The writing, the storytelling is just horrendous. It's all so cheap, so shallow, so contradictory, so nonsensical. And it's just so funny to imagine that the creator has such thin skin about criticism.
Yeah, that he
So funny that he spurred out at someone, a comedian of all people. He spurred out at a comedian on Twitter
a
for
Scott of
criticizing
all
this
people.
movie.
What do we matter?
Yeah.
Come on. But yeah,
It's
it's and it's funny to imagine that he got the pass to go make another reboot of like one of these movies. And like I
well,
don't
this got great reviews and made a lot of money, so it's no wonder that he did. But
5 years later though. That's a long time in between projects.
did he do anything in between?
No.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it took him a little while to get it off the ground or something. You know, I mean, this came out. Yeah, I don't know. Who knows? But I don't. I'm not looking for. I'm going to see the Wolfman because we're already planning to talk about it.
Yeah.
But
But
I'm
I'm not
not
looking
looking forward
forward to it really. I'm gonna watch a David Lynch movie tomorrow. R.I.P. to a great one.
to it. Yeah, we didn't talk about that yet, but rest in peace, David Lynch. He was a real one. He's a legend. And
One of the most unique voices in film, I think. In
certainly.
yeah.
Yes, and he's got some truly incredible work. I don't think all of his work is as equally brilliant, but when he was good, he was great. So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks, the first two seasons in particular. So
Yeah, Mulholland Drive. Somebody asked earlier what my favorite one is. I'm going to say Mulholland Drive. I know you're going to say Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet's a very, very close second for me.
Blue Velvet's the best. It's his best movie. That's my opinion, anyway. I think part of the reason I like Blue Velvet so much is because, his movies get pretty surreal and abstract, but that one has the most sort of like simple, concrete, effective story, kind of like gluing it all together. Like the skeleton is, because some of his movies get so weird that they're not like there is no like easy to understand literal interpretation anymore, and you kind of get lost in the abstractions a little bit. But Blue Velvet is like really simple, really effective, really compelling. I think his movies are best when the protagonist is most like him, because I think the dreamlike stuff that he's kind of putting on screen, it fits the character better. And so like his character, Kyle MacLachlan's character in Blue Velvet is very David Lynch. So I think it all just works really well. In particular, I think that's his strongest film.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Mulholland Drive is quite cool too, but that one gets a little like I'm not even quite sure I understand what happened in that, and it's kind of an open question for me whether there is something ultimately to fully understand. But I know you've made a compelling case for how to interpret. It gets a little too abstract for me. I like something tangible to hold on to a little bit.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I do I like the puzzle of Mulholland Drive, and I think I have a
Yeah.
pretty good way of putting it together. And I think it makes a lot of sense when I the way that I it makes a lot of sense to me the way that I read that movie.
I know what
Obviously,
you mean.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so I really like it. I think it's a lot of fun, and it's weird in the Lynchy way that I want, and
Yeah.
it's essentially how he did Twin Peaks: The Return, but better and more concise.
Yeah.
In my view, anyway. Uh,
Anyway, David
yeah,
Lynch, he's a legend. A really interesting guy. I mean, I think he's the kind of person I would recommend, even if people don't like his work, that they just go listen to him talk about stuff because he's just a really interesting guy.
yes,
You
it's a
know?
really unique way of thinking about art.
Yes. And he was kind of a something like a Renaissance man that we don't have very many of these days because he's a painter, he's a musician, he's a filmmaker, he's a sculptor, he's all that sort of stuff. And a weatherman. He's a weatherman.
He
Don't
was a
forget.
weatherman. Yeah.
He was a. Did you ever see that video of him telling people how to make quinoa?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's really funny.
That
He's
yeah. His
he's
later
quite a
career,
character.
he did he became a YouTuber. Uh
It's true. And he would like get up in the morning and tell people what the weather in LA is by looking out the window.
yep.
What a legend.
Beautiful
What a guy.
clear day.
Some of my favorite quotes are like David Lynch talking about Mad Men. He's like, I love Mad Men. I just want to live in that world.
yeah. Yeah, I like his book on filmmaking, Catching the Big Fish, a lot because
Mm,
there's some good
yeah.
advice in there, and then there's also a lot of other stuff that's like, I really like looking at fire. It reminds me a lot of flickering electric lights. uh,
It's like, all right, let's do that again, but this time good. Someone should have said that to Lee Whannell. Anyway, thank you all for watching our discussion of The Invisible Men. Just two wacky guys, taking things a little
two
too
wacky
far.
guys pranking bitches, taking
Pranking
things a
folks,
little too
trying
far.
to, just trying to have a good time, trying to make people laugh. Try to make life a little more interesting. And maybe they
It's
went a
not their
little too
fault. It's
far
not
with
their
it.
fault they didn't realize it was just a prank.
Yeah, listen, maybe they took things a little too far, but don't we all make mistakes? We all have bad days.
Yeah.
So, like, maybe let's not be so harsh on them.
One naked, one not,
Yeah, one something was really lost by choosing to not have him be naked.
I really wish he would that would have been so funny.
It would have been much funnier. Anyway, unless you have anything else to mention or promote or talk about before we hop off, I think we'll end it there.
Sounds good. Bye.
Yeah, bye. Bye. Thank